Starting off this countdown, we have St. Elmo. St. Elmo, originally known as Forest City, was once a very popular mining town in Colorado. They had about 2,000 people living there when the mines opened. However, in the early 1920s, the mining industry started to decline, and slowly people packed up and left. However, it's not completely abandoned. Apparently, a couple of people still live there, but it's said that this place is haunted. In fact, it's said that it is home to some of the most paranormal activity in the state. Maybe it's a good spot for paranormal investigators, but not the best area to live in. I mean, I wouldn't want ghosts for neighbors. I mean, maybe I would, if they were friendly ghosts that kept noise levels down, then sure.
Number 9. The Gulf of Mexico shipwreck. I wouldn't want to be the captain of a boat. You have so much responsibility with all the people on board, and you don't even get to do the best things on a boat, which is take it easy and lay around the whole time. I especially wouldn't want to be the captain of a boat going through the Gulf of Mexico. There's over 2,000 shipwrecks in this area. Sailing through here is like your buddy dating someone crazy, even though you told them not to do it, and then big surprise, they burn down their house. Well, there's one shipwreck in particular that has everyone interested. It was discovered when Exxon was laying some pipe down in the Gulf. It's a ship that's estimated to be over 200 years old. The mystery about this old boat is that all attempts to do extensive research on the vessel have failed. Computers break down, robots stop working, people have begun to speculate that the boat is cursed and whatever is inside it needs to remain a secret. Ooh. Number 8. Fauna Heraklion. This city was once one of the most important ports in the Mediterranean. There must have been an insane amount of spice rolling through this area. I bet the whole city smelled like the candle section in Bed Bath & Beyond. It's unknown why this amazing port got sucked into the ocean, probably another earthquake, or maybe it was Godzilla climbing out of the sea and smashing it into the ocean. Either or is really possible. Over the years, a ton of deep sea excavations have happened in the area, and so much has been dug up. Giant statues, gold coins, lost hieroglyphs, they can all be found in this area. It seems that the city was a major hub for several different cultures to come through and make trade. It's a huge bummer to think about all the knowledge that was lost in the sinking of this city, and all the spices, man. Number 7. The Aegean Sea Ruins. The Greeks have a crazy long history. It's full of war, politics, coups, betrayals, some magic dudes lying in the clouds somewhere. I think one of the craziest parts about Greek history is that everyone only wore sandals. I mean, in every movie about ancient Greece, every person is in sandals the whole movie. Alexander the Great is like, I'm taking over your country, and all the people are like, your toes are out, dude, it's so disrespectful. But something even crazier than fighting war in terrible footwear is the sunken city right off the coast of Delos. It's thought to be the ancient city of Canaan, where the Athenians defeated the Spartans. Archaeologists call it an underwater Pompeii since there's so much history that has been preserved in this city. This city has helped archaeologists learn so much more about the ancient Greeks. Number 6. Baia. We got another awesome place that ended up in a watery grave. Man, I guess that's why they built Las Vegas in the middle of the desert. There's no way water could suck away anyone's good time anybody was having there. Baia was a hedonistic playground where people would come to bang and party. It would even attract the rich and famous. People like Julius Caesar had vacation homes there and would come to visit constantly. This place was basically the Playboy mansion of its day. There were statues and artwork of great legends like Achilles and Odysseus, but unfortunately the city was blasted by the Saracens in the 8th century. And no one was ever allowed to have fun there anymore. Huge bummer. By the time the 1500s rolled around, the city was abandoned, because what's the point of having a beachside town with no debauchery? And after centuries of volcanic activity, the city was pushed underwater. Now it's a dive site you can visit to see all the fun that was lost. Number 5. The Milky Sea. I know this one sounds super gross. The Milky Sea makes me think of a giant bowl of snot that you have to cross in order to complete some task in a video game. But this one is actually pretty cool. Popping up randomly at night, the Milky Sea is an effect caused by a ton of bioluminescent plankton in the water. This makes the sea look like it's glowing and gives off a milk effect. It kind of looks like a giant rave is going on underwater. This thing can be huge, sometimes as large as Connecticut. It's still unknown why the plankton group up like this. It could be for mating, or maybe they just like to hang out. But what is known that this has been happening for centuries, back before you could explain these things through science. So sailors thought it was all magic. That would have blown some dude's mind. The ocean is glowing. Quick, cut off your pinky to satisfy the gods. Number 4. India's underwater city. Another city lost to sea. We can assume that this one was another party town swallowed up to make sure people keep living that pleb life. Although I can't confirm whether or not this place was an endless fiesta, I can confirm that this city is old as hell. It was discovered off the coast of Dwarka, one of the coastal cities of India. After its carbon dating, it was estimated to be around 9,500 years old. If this city is indeed that old, it could mean that the reason it ended up underwater was the melting of the Ice Age, which happened around 10,000 years ago. This would mean that this is one of the oldest cities ever discovered. It would be 5,000 years older than the oldest Mesopotamian city ever discovered. The uncovering of the city was a major find, and it could unlock secrets as to where we came from and who our ancestors are. Number 3. The Bimney Road. The most famous underwater city of all time. It's said to have been the mecca of science and culture, and people from all over the world would come there to learn. Well, it's Atlantis, of course, the apparent lost city where Aquaman is king and pops out every now and again to help the Justice League with fish-related problems. Well, this sunken road off the coast of the Bimney Islands in the Bahamas is said to have led to the missing metropolis. It's made of giant carved pieces of limestone that are too precise to have been formed in nature, so they must have been man-made. Now, did they actually lead to a city? Well, I have no idea, but it's safe to say that there was some sort of structure built in this area out in the middle of the ocean, so who knows. Number 2. The Chinese Atlantis. Number 2. The Chinese Atlantis. North America isn't the only place with its own ancient sunken city underwater. China has a mystery city of its own. It was called Chichen, and honestly, everything there was going great. It wasn't a party city, it didn't need to be condemned by the gods, it wasn't Pompeii and it got hit with a natural disaster, it was actually just chilling in the open until 1959. What happened was the Chinese government wanted to build a new power dam, and in order to do so, they needed to sink a city. The bummer is that some of the structures in the city were over 1,300 years old. It was a piece of history that got sunk for a dam. The good news is that the city is under so much water that it has been preserved and now is a scuba diving hotspot. Number 1. Atlantis of Japan. Has no one ever thought of giving these places their own original names? Instead of calling everything that falls underwater Atlantis, I'm gonna drop my phone in a candlelight bath and call it Atlantis of my basement apartment. This joke is even funnier because I don't have a bathtub at my place. I would have to flood my stand-up shower. Definitely not as romantic. Well, this city apparently fell into the ocean 2,000 years ago off the coast of Yonaguni-jima after a massive earthquake hit. Imagine an earthquake hitting before science, and you think God is shaking the world because you didn't pray 18 times every day. Now the city sits at the bottom of the ocean. Some speculate that it's just rock formations, but there does seem to be a 25-meter tall pyramid at the site, so I don't think that's a natural rock formation.
Starting off this countdown, we have the abandoned building. Abandoned buildings are urban explorers' playgrounds, except you have to be extra careful. There's a reason why some of these buildings are abandoned to begin with, and over the years have been subjected to structural failure. In January of 2019, a 21-year-old man and his friends went to explore an abandoned building in Detroit. Entry into the building was banned. Obviously, it was abandoned. In fact, it was getting ready to be demolished. That night, the group of friends decided to play hide and seek. He got separated from his group of friends and they couldn't find him. They decided to come back the next morning and continue to look for him. That's when they found his body on the first floor. Police concluded that he fell through an elevator shaft and to his death. He fell all the way from the 9th floor. That is absolutely terrifying. But before I go any further, make sure you give this video a big thumbs up because it really helps us out and I appreciate it.
Up next, number 9, we have the creepy Scientology base. The Church of Scientology has been involved in a ton of controversy over the years. From its treatment of its members to its highly secretive practices, a lot of people are actually scared of this religion. For people that aren't members, it's actually pretty hard to know what exactly is going on inside of their buildings. One of their churches called Trementina is one of the properties owned by Scientology that can be seen on Google Maps over in New Mexico. Well, take a look for yourselves. You guys are looking at it right now. Okay, what the heck is happening inside of this building? They say that they use it to preserve books and movies, but honestly, who knows? They could be performing satanic rituals for all we know. Nuclear testing facility makes its way onto this list at number 8. Here we have a picture of a Google satellite image of a nuclear testing facility located in Nevada. So yeah, probably pretty close to Area 51. I think the reason why you should never visit this location is it's highly obvious. It's definitely not open to the public, and I'm not sure why you would want to even attempt to step foot near this location, and that's because it is full of so much radiation. Mushroom clouds can be seen up to 100 miles away in the distance, so this actually caused a lot more tourists wanting to visit Las Vegas. My idea of a good time does not involve slot machines and clouds of nuclear radiation, but that's just my opinion. It's actually really scary to think about it, that the fact that we are testing deadly nuclear weapons. Helltown in New Baltimore brings us to number 7. A Google Street View car managed to capture this image on their camera. Could this just be an equipment glitch, or could something more sinister be going on in this small town? Apparently people in this area are saying that there is a portal to hell in the area. Residents of New Baltimore have been reported that their little town has been taken over by evil demonic entities, so of course Google sent out a car to get, better pictures, more updated pictures, more accurate pictures. How about you bring them a couple of priests and it's time to bless the area. Next up, number 6, we have China's Area 51. What you're looking at right now could actually be China's version of Area 51. Is this real life right now? These strange white lines were discovered on Google Maps in the middle of China's Gobi Desert, and this image struck so many conversations online about what it could be. Most people believe that it's a calibration pattern for spy satellites, but then there are others that say that these lines prove aliens exist. These lines are located near the headquarters of China's space program. But unfortunately, we may never know the truth about what is really going on here. A very haunted bridge brings us to number 5. This is Booger Holler Bridge, and if you value your life, well, you'll never want to set foot or attempt to cross it, and that's because it is known to be extremely haunted. Legend has it that a father and son drowned while trying to cross the low bridge on a horse and buggy many years ago. And then there's another story about a woman and her child drowning when their car stalled on the bridge and the car was thrown into the river due to the strong current. People have even said that they can hear screams from the bridge, and people do satanic practices on it for some reason. So needless to say, the Google Street View car got close to the bridge, but they didn't dare cross it. Number 4, we have a creepy doll village. If you don't like looking at scary life-sized human dolls, then you'll never want to visit a small village in Nagoro, Japan. But in case you're curious, well, here's a taste of what you'll find there. Well, I told you that these dolls were creepy, but that's not all. Apparently an old lady will make a new doll every time someone in the village dies. So the amount of dolls outnumber the amount of people actually living in the village by about 10 to 1. I mean, could you imagine walking around at night and seeing all of these creepy dolls just staring at you? Couldn't they just be placed inside of an art gallery or something? This whole thing just makes me uncomfortable. So you know what, let's get the heck away from it and let's move on. Let's see what we have next. Scary underwater pyramids is up next at number 3. Well, this is an image taken from Google Maps that shows us that some creepy underwater pyramids might be lurking at the bottom of the ocean over in the Bahamas. This image sparked a lot of controversies when people said that these underwater pyramids can prove that aliens might be living among us. More reasonable people believe that these pyramids could have been made by an ancient civilization. But they also admit that we still can't rule out the existence of alien life forms, just yet. A nuclear fallout zone steps onto this list at number 2. Pripyas Ukraine has a bad reputation of being the site of the worst nuclear disaster in history. It's literally a ghost town with abandoned buildings that will probably never be lived in for a very long time. But the creepiest part of this town has to be this picture right here. Well, take a look for yourselves. It's literally a room full of old gas masks that were left behind. I don't know what's scarier, the amount of gas masks or the fact that there were child-sized gas masks left inside of an abandoned school. And topping this list, and at number 1, we have one of the most dangerous cities on Earth. This right here is El Bronx, Colombia. And even though the city is completely demolished now, it was once known as the most dangerous city on Earth. This was a neighborhood that was known for child prostitution and murder. Put it this way, if you found yourself walking the streets of this neighborhood, something awful would probably happen to you. Some of these buildings also had a lot of rotting murder victims inside, and gangs used to capture and feed rival gang members to starving dogs just to send the other gang a message.
Starting off this countdown, we have Rock House Mine. Back in 2000, 2018, 3 young adults decided to go explore the Rock House Powellton mine in the town of Clear Creek, Virginia. They were Erica Tidway, Kayla Williams, and Cody Beverly. Now, to get into this abandoned mine, they had to crawl through a small ventilation shaft in the mine. But while exploring, they got lost and were walking around in the dark for hours. When these individuals did not return home, a search party was sent out for them. They were missing for 5 days until thankfully they were located. Erica was found first. She got separated from her 2 friends. 30 minutes later, Kayla and Cody were found together. After this, a statement was released warning urban explorers to stop entering abandoned mines. So yeah, maybe don't follow in their footsteps and go exploring abandoned locations.
Coming in number 9, we have Katish Castle, a beautiful work of art, a towering castle that would be fit for only the finest royalty that wants nothing more than to help the people, or for a homicidal maniac who really wants to torture hundreds of people for a completely unknown reason. Even though this castle looks beautiful and innocent, it's far from that. The Katish Castle was home to Elizabeth Bathory, who was obsessed with torture and bloodletting to try and heal herself. She would send out servants to find poor people and bring them back to her castle. They would either be promised jobs or some etiquette training, but they would actually be tortured to death and drained of their blood. And she would do some horrible things to these people. She would amputate their body parts, put people in devious torture devices, and she would also drain them of their blood so she could bathe in it and drink in it. Yeah, I think it's safe to say that this place is evil. Coming in at number 8, we have Mount St. Helens. Now, I'm going to be a little bit loose on this one because Mount St. Helens doesn't really contain a great evil because nature is really neutral, but it does contain a destructive force that is as powerful as any evil force on this planet. When you just look at the beautiful mountain, which is Mount St. Helens, it looks like one of the most beautiful peaks in all the land. It looks like you should hike up it, build your life right on the side with a beautiful log cabin where you can spend out the rest of your days raising your beautiful family in the wilderness. But I couldn't think of a worse idea than building a home right around Mount St. Helens because it has enough destructive power to cover a lot of the US in ash. And with the way things are going in the world, the last thing we would need is a volcano to blow up and send a massive fire cloud through the sky so it blots out the sun and none of us can grow food, and maybe we freeze to death on top of that. Coming at number 7, we have the Gomangtong Caves in Malaysia. Once again, another touch of nature that happens to be filled to the brim with something horrible. Locals say that these caves are cursed, and for good reason. Even if you don't believe in some horrible mystic evil, you will be scared off from these caves, from the thousands of things in there that will gross you out or just straight up try to kill you. The most famous creature that loves to call these caves home are the bats. And beyond being one of the most diseased carrying creatures on the planet, these bats poop on everything in sight. There is more bat droppings in there than the Wayne family toilet. That is a Batman joke for you. So if you've got enough grit to push past an ankle-deep valley of flying rodent excrement, then you're going to get blasted in the face with some cockroaches. And these Malaysian cockroaches are massive and they also have wings. If one flying creep wasn't enough for you, here's some more. On top of that, there's a ton of venomous insects and reptiles that call this place home, so if you don't die from being grossed out, you might die from lethal injection. Next on the list is the Forbidden City, Beijing, China. I mean, it should be no surprise that a place called the Forbidden City has a dark past. No one tells you that a place is forbidden because it's filled with gumdrops and $20 bills. But when you look at this place, it's absolutely beautiful. The ancient structures have been around for over 600 years, and when you see something that old, you immediately think of something cute and innocent. I mean, I don't know anything that can live for 600 years, but if I did, it would be this cute old man that kind of walks around super cute and looks like a tortoise or something like that. But this place has a very dark past of people murdering each other to try and get ahead in royal families. Now, there are a ton of haunted spirits walking the halls seeking revenge on those who betrayed them, but I hate to break it to you, it's a little bit late to get your revenge. Next on the list, we have Snake Island, Brazil. Once again, this one is more on the side of nature, but it can be easy to understand why this one is on the list when you find out that this place is called Snake Island. There isn't any sort of dark evil force living there like an ancient curse or supernatural baddie, but there is a ton of snakes that want to feast on your still warm beating heart. I mean, from a distance, Snake Island looks like it would be the best secret beach to live on. It's an uninhabited island, just so innocent, no people living living on it. You could move right in and become a hermit. But if you were to do that, it would become one of your worst nightmares, and the reason for that is stated in the island's name. It's called Snake Island. There are snakes everywhere, and some of them are the most poisonous snakes you will ever encounter. Next on the list is Salem, Massachusetts, USA. What would now be a cute tourist spot where you can go get clam chowder and see a chunk of American history that's carved right out of the American coastal city, but it used to be home to one of the most horrible crimes in human history. The Salem witch trials are when people juiced up with a holy rage hunted down and prosecuted innocent people for being witches. Some of these people were just healers or people who subscribed to a different faith, but none of that mattered when the courts got involved. They were all seen as guilty and then hung. Many places in town are now said to be haunted with the angry spirits of people who were wrongfully killed so many years ago. Even though they might have not died as someone evil, their souls became evil after they were forced to be stuck in Salem for eternity. Next on the list is Larnock Castle in New Zealand. Once again, a place that looks so innocent just based on how beautiful it is. This place looks like it was pulled right out of a fairy tale. Larnock Castle is surrounded by wondrous draping foliage that makes it look like you're walking through a mystical gateway as you enter the royal grounds. And once you're in the castle, the massive ballroom is so breathtaking, it will have you saying, "These dudes were ballin' and we should eat the rich." But all of this beauty is sideswiped by the fact that this residence is plagued by an angry ghost, the daughter of the former owner who fell ill with a horrible case of typhoid, and it would take her life. Now because her ghost died in agony, it walks the halls beaming with spectral energy. Coming in at number 2, we have New Orleans. I know I'm putting this one on the list, but New Orleans is one of my #1 travel places. At first glance, New Orleans looks like the most innocent place you can take your family. There's a ton of stuff to do outdoors, you have beautiful architecture, amazing food. Really, this is one of the best places you can go visit. But when you start pulling back the veil on the history, there is a ton of dark magic pulled into this place. There's a long history of ghost stories, hauntings, and voodoo. Not to mention the city is one of the murder capitals of America, which really makes you wonder whether or not dark voodoo has anything to do with making the people here more aggressive, or is it just the day drinking and hot weather? And coming in at the #1 spot, we have churches. These are supposed to be holy places that cannot be corrupted by evil of the outside world. They're supposed to be the most innocent places on the planet that only house the naive who want to see the whole world work together to become one happy place. But there have been some churches throughout time that have housed some very evil people. For instance, if you go back to the year 955, you will uncover one of the most horrible popes who ever lived. Actually, maybe the most horrible pope who ever lived. It was Pope Jean Paul XII, and he has a laundry list of offenses even if he wasn't someone holy. Let's start with the lighter stuff, which includes premarital gambling, drinking, lavish parties, blackmailing, stealing, wrongful imprisonment, and that's just getting started. He's also accused of kidnapping women and them. It said that he would torture people who tried to stop his debaucherous lifestyle. He apparently blinded a dude for disagreeing with him, and he was doing all this stuff on the church's dime. It's true what they say, that absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Kicking off the list at number 10, Nauru. It's safe to say that the last few years have been a little rocky. Yeah, our plans had to shift a bit, to say the least. Nauru, however, is a tiny island located in the southwestern Pacific. It didn't have to shut down during the pandemic. It didn't really see much change. It's the world's smallest island nation, and it was originally called Pleasant Island back in 1798 when Westerner John Fern first discovered it. Pleasant Island, yeah, it started out pretty pleasant, like most islands do. And then when humans got involved, it went to The island's natural resource at the time was phosphate, but overmining made the tiny island pretty much useless now. There isn't even a port, yet this island had a railway. Just a tiny island with barely anybody there and a running train. As far as cursed locations go, this one's on my travel list. If only they would just allow visitors. Maybe one day.
In our number 9 spot today, we have the Alaskan wilderness. Chris McCandless is someone I have talked about before on this channel. He is the man who inspired the book Into the Wilderness. In 1992, while hiking through the Alaskan wilderness, Chris came across an abandoned bus in which he set up camp. Unfortunately, he later found himself trapped in the wilderness due to the rising water in the nearby river, and this bus became the place that he passed away. Since the release of the book about his life in 1996 and the subsequent film by the same same name, Chris's story inspired many people who wanted to live life in a way that Chris did, or they just wanted to travel to the bus and see the things that Chris saw. Either way, this bus has proven to be quite a dangerous tourist attraction, as many people have found themselves in a similar situation to the one that Chris was in. The nearby river has proven to be fatal for many people who have tried to cross it, which is certainly not the legacy Chris was trying to leave. Just last year in March, the bus actually ended up being removed from the trail. As much as I do wish it could have stayed where it was, I think the decision to prioritize the public's safety was the best and right decision to make.
Coming in number 8, we have Snake Island. Have you ever wanted to go to a place that has a bunch of snakes and they're all over the ground and in your hair and in your cereal? If you answered yes to that question, you should probably go to therapy, because that's just too many snakes. You should expect no more than a reasonable amount of snakes in your day-to-day, say maybe 1 to 2 snakes. But there is one place on this earth that could give you that many snakes, and that is of course Snake Island. This is a real place. It's not something a 14-year-old boy dreamt up when he inhaled some vapor from a gas leak, or the premise of some bad movie from the 90s that has both LL Cool J and Mariah Carey in it. No, this is an island off the coast of Brazil that is teeming with snakes. People have gone out to visit this horror show mostly for research purposes, and I'm sure there are some people that are dumping bodies over there because no one is about to head over to Snake Island to find them. There are many different species of snake that live on this island. You better believe that there's a good chunk of them that are poisonous. I couldn't think of a worse travel destination. Not only would you be attacked by snakes the entire time, but no one would come to the island after to recover your body because it would be too dangerous, and there would be a good chance that your corpse would be munched on by all the slithering demon creatures that call this place home.
In our number 7 spot today, we have Death Road. North Youngest Road has the nickname Death Road, and honestly, when you just look at it, you can totally understand why. This 69-kilometer road is full of hairpin turns, and of course it is on the side of a mountain. Not to mention the fog, landslides, and waterfalls. It was so dangerous that until 1994, there were at least 300 drivers a year who were getting killed on this road. This road connects the Amazon rainforest to the capital city, so it was happening very often that salespeople would cram into trucks or buses filled with their wood and crops in order to try and sell them. The issue, however, was that these sharp turns were not wide enough for these larger vehicles, which would of course lead to them falling off the edge of the cliff, which was always fatal. There have certainly been steps taken to make the road slightly more safe for tourists, but it still remains one of the more dangerous places in the world. It is such a shame though, because it looks absolutely beautiful.
Coming in number 6, we have Omayakan. How about the coldest place on earth where people actually live? You know that if you take a trip somewhere, you can pick a spot that has beautiful sunshine, fruits that are so fresh, they were literally just picked off the vine before they touched your lips, and food so good that you'll eat until you're rolling on the ground moaning like a llama giving birth. Well, even though that sounds like a no-brainer when choosing your next travel spot, it turns out that some people will choose to visit a place that has none of those things and the chance of losing all your fingers and toes to frostbite. Welcome to Omayakan, where it regularly sits at -40, the coldest inhabited city in the world. This place is in Siberia, and it's so cold there that there is only about 500 people who have been able to live there. They do know that they can leave whenever they want, right? There's a whole world out there waiting for them. The people there can't grow any sort of vegetation, so they live off mostly fish and reindeer meat. That sounds like an exciting experience for your palate. One of the biggest tourist attractions there is a massive thermometer that shows exactly how miserable you should be every day. And one time it got so cold that it broke. Also, if you want to leave, you better plan ahead because the closest airport is 500 kilometers away.
In our number 5 spot today, we have Bikini Island. Bikini in the Marshall Islands was once inhabited by around 170 islanders until 1945 rolled around. The US president at the time, Harry Truman, ordered that the military continue to test nuclear weapons just in case they were needed in the future, since this was just shortly after the end of World War II. Unfortunately, Bikini was the place that was chosen to be the testing site, since all planes and ships traveled on routes that weren't close to the area. The residents of the island were asked to vacate for the good of mankind and to end all world wars, to which they of course obliged, under the impression that they would one day be able to move back. back. In 1954, the military detonated one of the most powerful weapons, Castle Bravo, which was 15 megatons, which is extremely large. This, combined with the 22 other nuclear weapons that were dropped, the island saw some extremely deadly levels of radiation that left the residents unable to return until the 70s. But, of course, just shortly after this, they realized that there were still higher levels of radiation than they thought, which left the island unsafe to live on. Bikini still remains uninhabited, but apparently there are people who try diving into the water surrounding it, but I just don't think I'd take that risk.
Coming in number 4, we have Oak Island. Do y'all like treasure? Heck yes. Do y'all like spooky stories about treasure? Heck yes. Do y'all like getting stuck in a trap while you're trying to find some treasure and then being lost to the world you know? Well, that's what's been going on over at Oak Island for years. If you don't know, there's a place called Oak Island that apparently has a massive treasure on it, and no one has been able to find it. Treasure hunters come there all the time to try and dig up the booty, but here's the thing. There's a bunch of booby traps on the island. So many that people have actually lost their lives while trying to find the treasure. So be careful if you ever head over there, because you never know what sort of defenses could be hidden to protect the treasure. Coming in at number 3, we have the Paris Catacombs. What did Paris do in the 18th century when they were overflowing with bodies? Well, they dug them all out of the ground and they built an entire tunnel system to put over 6 million people worth of remains down there. You can go visit them, and I bet there's no ghosts down there. There's even rumors that some sort of beast lives in the catacombs and eats people who gets lost, and there have been secret raves that take place, and no one knows if these raves are actually held by people who live on the surface or some sort of strange mole people who like EDM and live in the tunnels. Who knows? Coming in number 2, we have North Korea. I mean, do what you want with your life, but this place has always been sketchy to me. I mean, I would never want to go there because we have done so many videos on this channel about what might be going on in that country, and what if one of the Kim Jongs or someone in the government over there loves watching top 10 stuff? Then they saw one of these videos and they're waiting for when I cross and they arrest me. They lock me up in some weird prison, and then that's the last you see of me. Yeah, that's not the way I want to go. Also, there's apparently a secret prison over there where they horrible things to people, and if you even want to get in the country, you need to get special permission. Also, I don't know if there's anything worth checking over there, so it would be risking it all for something that might not even be worth it.
In our number 1 spot today, we have Mount Sinabung. Sumatra is an exceptionally popular tourist destination for a multitude of reasons, but one of the main ones is, of course, Mount Sinabung. It is obviously extremely beautiful, but the 8,000 foot tall mountain is a fully active volcano. It had a large eruption for the first time in almost 400 years in 2010, and ever since then, the 4 craters on this volcano have been very, very active. Since it's such a popular visitor destination, sadly when the eruption in 2010 happened, there were 2 people who lost their lives. You think this would be the only incident? But there were more lives lost when the volcano erupted again in 2014, and even more when it erupted again in 2018. There have been evacuations at other points during the years due to the fear of a large and catastrophic eruption. I feel like that's the downside to living in a place like this. It's obviously extremely beautiful, but then you just have to live life constantly on the edge, not knowing if your city is about to melt to the ground. The mountain still remains open for tourists, but you are urged to hike with a guide.
Starting off this countdown, we have Emchitka Island. Located in Alaska, sections of this island are blurred out on Google Maps, and no one really knows why this is. But it may have to do with the nuclear testing that once took place there. From the 1950s to the 1970s, Emchitka Island was the site of US underground nuclear testing. Nowadays, they are running tests to see if the island has any radioactive leakage there. If there isn't, then in 2025 it could become a wildlife reserve. But again, why is half of the island blurred out? Maybe that's the section where the nuclear testing took place. But why is it still blurred? A lot of people think that the military is doing some suspicious illegal activities there, and that's why. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments below. In our 9th spot, we have the Underwater Memorial. The Sunken Crosses of Malpeque is an underwater graveyard located in Spain. This spot commemorates a group of 16th century missionaries that were killed by pirates before being thrown into the sea. The site features 40 stone crosses at the bottom of the sea off of the coast of La Palma in the Canary Islands. The site was created in 2000. Locals created one cross for each person that was killed, and then they purposely had them sunk in their honor. So it is literally an underwater graveyard, which is cool, but it's also creepy at the same time. It is now forever a site to remember the horrors that happened to these people. Moving on to number 8, we have Jason Voorhees. Imagine you're swimming along in a lake minding your own business when all of a sudden you see Jason from Friday the 13th chained to the bottom of the lake. I don't know about you, but I would become like Michael Phelps and just speed swim my way out of that ocean. Here's the thing, there is a Jason at the bottom of a lake. Turns out that someone put a creepy statue of Jason Voorhees at the bottom of a lake in Arizona. The chains around him add a creepy touch as well. Turns out the statue was placed in Lake Pleasant in 2018 by a diver named Zachary Nagy. According to him, it took weeks upon weeks to make. When asked why he did it, he said that it is common for divers to place objects underwater, kind of to act like a marker. Apparently there's a poker table, fake skeletons, even a Christmas tree down there as well. But this one is definitely the creepiest. It must have given some of the divers quite a fright when they first swam into it. Now, Lake Pleasant Regional Park supervisors as well as local officials instructed Zachary to remove the statue. He didn't end up doing so though. But the creepiest part? When they went down there to remove it themselves, it was nowhere to be seen. Moving on to number 7, we have the underwater Stonehenge. England's Stonehenge is a pretty mysterious site. There's a lot we don't know about it, like how was it built? What was its purpose? So on and so on. Well, it turns out that there is a Stonehenge located underwater. It can be found at the bottom of Lake Michigan. There are a bunch of random rock formations that scientists have been struggling to explain, but it's believed that they are thousands of years old. What makes it even weirder is that on one of these stones, they discovered a carving of a mastodon, a relative of an elephant that went extinct like over 10,000 years ago. So they're like, maybe this structure has been here since the last ice age. We really don't know how old they truly are, who built them, and why. In our 6th spot, we have the massive shark statue. So it appears as if divers enjoy giving other divers heart attacks. This time, someone placed a giant shark statue underwater. Holy, if I saw that thing, I legit would have a heart attack, or I'd probably just choke on the water and drown. The shark can be found in Lake Neuchatel in Switzerland. This is 10 times scarier than Jason. Like at first glance, it looks real. We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with the Sunken Sculpture Park. Located in the Caribbean just off the coast of Grenada, you will find a number of underwater statues. Some of them include life-sized casts of local children or a ring of people holding hands. Nowadays, the sculptures are covered in vegetation and in barnacles. The ocean has completely claimed them. So I won't lie, it looks pretty creepy, but it definitely is a place to see. In our 4th spot, we have the Dead Humans. Now, this is a very undeniably creepy art site. Located just off the coast of North Africa in the shallow waters around one of the Canary Islands, you have 200 human figures laying dead on the ocean floor. This was an art installation trying to highlight global warming. All the dead humans are said to be victims of global warming. This site is called Human Gyre and it is open to the public if you wish to dive down and see it for yourself. If you do, you'll see a ring of humans stacked on top of each other. If I dove down and I didn't have a warning about what this was, I would literally think that it was a portal to hell or something. Coming in at number 3, we have the Dragon's Triangle. The Dragon's Triangle, or the Devil Sea, or the Pacific Bermuda Triangle, is an area where a number of different ships and military vessels have gone missing, which is why it's considered the Pacific Bermuda Triangle. Fun, not so fun fact, it is considered one of the most dangerous marine locations around the world. In 1950, a team of researchers exploring the area set out, and they never returned home. Their bodies were never found. And over the years, a number of US and Japanese ships have gone missing in that area. One time, 9 American ships went missing in that area on a day with perfect weather. To this day, they haven't been found, and we literally don't know what happened to them. Moving on to number 2, we have the Mariana Trench. The Mariana Trench is located in the western part of the Pacific Ocean, and it is the deepest part of the ocean. It is about 2,550 kilometers long and 69 kilometers wide. The exact depth, though, is unknown because we haven't been able to get to the bottom of it, which makes it pretty creepy. Scientists say that there could be sea creatures down there that we have never even heard of, but we won't be able to find out because we can't get down there. It's so deep that apparently if you take Mount Everest and put it in the trench, its summit would still be underwater by more than 2 kilometers. So yeah, it's really deep and creepy. And in our number 1 spot today, we have the ghost ships. Now, there is an area in the ocean rumored to be incredibly haunted, and this is located just adjacent to the Bermuda Triangle. How fitting. So this is the shoreless Sargasso Sea. There's no shoreline, hence its name. Its boundaries are ocean currents. Not only is it filled with seaweed so thick that it floats on the surface of the water, but it's haunted. A number of people have spotted long-lost ships floating in the area. When they pull up to it, no one is on board. Not only that, but others have claimed to see faces appear in the seaweed, as if someone was trapped in the ocean looking up at them. How creepy is that? Starting off this countdown, we have Zone Rogue. Zone Rogue, sometimes called the Red Zone or Zone Rouge, is an area in northeastern France that got destroyed during World War I. After the war, the land was declared 100% damaged with devastating effects on the agriculture. It was said to be impossible to clean, and human life there was said to be impossible. So the French government prohibited anyone from going there. In fact, this area is littered with human and animal remains and millions of unexploded weapons. So it's literally dangerous to go there. All you need to do is be traveling there and you set off an explosive. That would not end well.
Number 9. King Tut's artifacts. The new Grand Egyptian Museum opened up in 2021, and while that's quite recent, the contents displayed inside certainly are not. For the first time in history, King Tut's ancient belongings, the artifacts discovered with him initially, will all be on display. Yeah, this is huge. Prior to this museum being open, we only saw around 150 artifacts from his tomb in entirety. They took all these pieces on tour, but now this museum will house thousands of artifacts. It's the final resting place for King Tut's collection. That's over 7,000 square meters of just Egyptian history, all on display for you. It's pretty amazing. If you have a chance to visit the Grand Egyptian Museum, or if you saw this King Tut World Tour live, nice. I'm jealous. I'm really jealous. Number 8. North Sentinel Island. Heading over to India, this island is the home of the Sentinelese tribe, one of the most forbidden islands in the world. But why? Really, why? It's located in the Bay of Bengal. North Sentinel Island is about 1,200 kilometers away from India. And while most islands are shrinking or disappearing, this one actually grew back in 2004. Yeah, the island actually lifted up a couple of meters during an earthquake, so it's getting bigger. Gained an extra kilometer. Nice. The inhabitants on this island are among the few uncontacted tribes left in the world. They've apparently been there for 50,000 years. There's no sign of agriculture or even fire yet, but somehow this tribe has thrived for this long. If we try and get close, they will try and drive anybody away with deadly force. In fact, back in 2006, 2 fishermen lost their lives because they got too close to the island without knowing who was on it. We don't even know how many people are on this island to this day. We have zero clue. They aren't exactly these ruthless hunters per se, they're just protecting their land. Like they've done so for thousands of years. They're protecting this island from us, pretty much. And they'll continue to do so. Yeah, we're not getting close anytime soon. Number 7, Lascaux Cave. If you didn't visit this cave back in, say, 1963 or sooner, you lost your chance, my friend. Forever. Yeah, officially closed. The Lascaux cave system is now a World Heritage Site in France. These cave paintings are 17,300 years old. Paintings that depict cattle, bison, stags, you name it. They're beautiful, they're complex, and of course, they're extremely old. So old that the cave was closed to the public forever in 1963 after it declared human presence wasn't too healthy for its art. Yeah, our breathing would eventually cause this art to fade away. Plus, I'm sure somebody would have snuck in by now with a Sharpie had it remained open. 17,000-year-old paintings. Protect these for another 17,000. Please. Number 6, Surtsey Island. When it comes to new things in life, it's pretty rare we get a new island. Yeah, how lucky are we? We're even luckier that Disney didn't build a resort here. Nice, because now scientists get to study what an island looks like without human interaction for a change. Yeah, oh, we're nervous now, eh? We're like, oh, what's gonna happen with it? Is it nice? Is the air better? Surtsey Island on Iceland. As of right now, it's only open to a few scientists and geologists. Everybody else, beat it, pal, get lost. It was born from a volcanic eruption back in 1963, coincidence, at the same year that the caves closed. And scientists all have one rule on this island. No seeds, nothing. Choose something else, anything else, please. One guy accidentally pooped out a tomato seed and almost lost his job. The guy almost ruined the whole operation because he ate a tomato. What a stressful job. Better hold it, I guess, if you work there. Number 5, Niha Island. Located in Hawaii, this beautiful island is also not a sandals resort. Yet. Nice, that's good stuff. What do you know? In fact, the population of this island is only a whopping 170. It's also referred to as the Forbidden Island. It was bought back in 1864 by Elizabeth Sinclair, and it's been privately owned since, hence the small population. The thing is, in 1952, the polio epidemic hit the islands and a ban was put in place. So now you couldn't enter the island or leave. Yep, better pack your nicest flip-flops, buddy, you're staying. Nobody got sick, which is a good thing, but now if you want to enter the island or whatever, you have to gain special access, which is a lot harder than it may seem. Even if you're extremely rich, you can't just buy your way onto this island. There's something going on there. For now, we'll just, observe from a bush from afar. We'll just sit there with a telescope and have FOMO. Number 4, the Shanghai Complex. Most of the details on this one are still unknown. How fun is that? Nice. We love a nice mystery here on Top 10. The Shanghai Complex is a massive underground bunker, as you could have guessed. It's supposedly able to fit 200,000 civilians comfortably. Yeah, it's over 1 million square feet, and it was built in case a nuclear attack were to ever happen. Probably a great call. Probably some good stuff. This was a newspaper article back in 2006. Now imagine reading about this one morning while you're having your coffee, just all of a sudden an underground bunker. You're like, do we get tickets? How does this work? The Shanghai Morning Post touched on the new complex, saying it's got massive protective doors, everything you need, electricity, great ventilation. It can fully support life for 2 weeks. And yes, it's very secure. No one's getting in or out. Number 3, Svalbard Vault. Over the pandemic, I spent a lot of time playing video games. And a lot of these games always have a similar theme, I realized. Always like a post-apocalyptic, a lot of survivors and vaults. I'm referring to Fallout. That was definitely my go-to game. It's stressful but engaging, and in real life we have a global seed vault, and it's deep in the Arctic Circle on the island Spitsbergen. It's this massive bunker that has since been deemed the Doomsday Vault. That's nice. That has a nice ring to it. Sounds calming. This is where humans will store food crops. Like all of them. It contains 100 million seeds, so if the Earth all of a sudden were to get wiped out by White Walkers or all the ice melts, something bad happens and we're all doomed, well, this vault will be good to go long term. All that water that has since, eliminated humanity, plenty of hydration for future crops. April showers, I guess. Number 2, Denver International Airport. Since its opening in 1995, Denver International has been the subject of many myths. Some are pretty bizarre. I had to include it on our list today. Lizard people, that's the talk of the town. Apparently, they like to build airports on their off time, when they're not, ruling the Illuminati. Yeah, so far it's believed the Freemasons built this airport, or the Illuminati, or lizards, the New World Order, something, someone, I don't know. It's haunting. The airport itself is massive. It covers around 52 square miles. There's gargoyles that are hanging out in your baggage claim, so yeah, the art displayed is odd, that I get. It does seem creepy for sure. But the airport has started to lean into it almost. They laugh at this stuff. They have a conspiracy month that began back in 2016, so they're like, yeah, screw it, whatever you're saying, sure. They even showed a screening of Close Encounters of the Third Kind at the airport. Imagine you're traveling and this happens, I'd be like, what? Where am I? What year did I land in? I would lean into it too, honestly. If I was hiding a secret bunker, the only thing I would do is lean into it. Kind of like number 1, Area 51. Of course we have to talk about it. What is it real? Are there aliens? They were on the news. Is this a real place? Remember that Area 51 raid when everybody was determined to find out the truth about aliens? That big raid, that massive raid with everybody?
Everyone! We're not here for photos! We're here to rescue the aliens! Rescue!
Okay, so it didn't work, I don't think we got in. We didn't raid Area 51, obviously. I mean, I don't know, a handful of gamers in tinfoil hats can't overthrow Area 51 military. Who'd have thunk? Because it's one of the most forbidden places in the world to enter. That's why. It's common knowledge at this point, but why exactly did people get arrested in tinfoil hats? What were they hiding? What did they want to break into?
Starting off this countdown, we have the Bluffs. Scarborough, Ontario is known for their bluffs. We call them the Scarborough Bluffs. It's a very popular place to go to and the view is amazing. Tons of people like climbing to the top of the bluffs and then like looking down at the lake below. But over the time, the bluffs have been subjected to erosion and have had landslides. And some of the ground on top of the bluffs has been known to give away under people's feet if they get too close to the edge. As a result, they fenced off the bluffs to avoid this from happening. They even have a security guard monitoring the area to prevent people from going to these bluffs. Sadly, people still don't listen, and a number of people have snuck their way to the top of the bluffs. A number of people have fallen to their death. In 2018, there were 18 incidents that involved people falling down from the bluffs. People don't understand just how dangerous this area is. They look at it as a good photo opportunity. In our ninth spot, we have 2207 Seymour Avenue. And if you guys are liking this video so far, then make sure to give it a big thumbs up. 2207 Seymour Avenue, located in Cleveland, Ohio, is a home where a horrific crime took place. From 2002 to 2004, Ariel Castro kidnapped 3 young women. Michelle Knight, Amanda Berry, and Georgina De Jesus. He kept them captive in his home until 2013 when Amanda Berry escaped with her daughter and contacted the police. The police came to his house and rescued the other women. Castro was arrested within hours. He was sentenced to life plus 1,000 years in prison without parole. Due to the disturbing crimes that took place at his home, Google Maps decided to blur his house. In fact, the house has been named the House of Horrors. But a couple years back, his house was demolished to help the victims move on from their traumatizing past. Coming in at number 8, we have the French nuclear facility. The Arriva-La Hague nuclear fuel reprocessing facility in France is another place that is blurred out on Google Maps. This facility opened in 1976 and is responsible for treating nuclear fuel from several countries. Here's the thing though, this facility hasn't always been blurred out. By using the Google Earth History tab, you can see old Google Earth images of this facility. So now, why all of a sudden is it blurred out? What is going on there? Well, it may have something to do with the controversy it has received and the backlash it received from Greenpeace. Since 1997, Greenpeace has been trying to shut it down, saying that they dump 1 million liters of liquid radioactive waste per day in the ocean. That is severely messed up if that's true. Maybe that's why it's blurred out, so that people don't see what they're really up to with their nuclear waste. Moving on to number 7, we have the French prison. There are a number of prisons that are blurred out on Google Earth, including the Beaumet prison in Marseille. Now, why do they blur out images of prisons? Well, a couple of reasons. One, for privacy. But the main reason is so that the criminals don't know the layout of the prison. Basically, this prison wasn't always blurred. Following a successful jailbreak, France's Minister of Justice was like, why are there aerial images of this prison available online? And then that led to the prison getting blurred. But of course, you can still find older images of the prison on Google Maps that show what it looks like and its layout. In our 6th spot, we have the Antarctic Ice Shield. This is another pretty strange place to get blurred. But basically, halfway between Australia and Madagascar, there is a 22-kilometer long blur in the middle of the Antarctic Ice Shield. I mean, this place is one of the most isolated places on Earth. There's nothing but ice and penguins there. So why is it being blurred out? We don't know for sure, but people think that there is something hidden there that we're not allowed to see. Although it's thought to be owned by Australia, theory goes that Russia or the US have built a research facility there. The only way we'll know for sure is by visiting the place itself. So who's coming with me for this field trip? It'll be a lot of fun. Come on, just pack a snowsuit and lots of hot packs. We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with Moroa Island. Located in French Polynesia, this island was first used for nuclear testing in 1966 by France. These tests apparently took place until 1996. That's when the French president shut down the facility. Why? Well, Greenpeace found out that these tests were polluting the water as far as Peru and New Zealand. In fact, many locals in Tahiti have claimed they have been affected by the radiation from the tests. Nowadays, the island is off limit to visitors and is guarded by French forces, which is probably why half of the island is blurred on Google Maps. Or maybe it's because they're still doing these nuclear tests. We may never know. Moving on at number 4, we have Elmira Correctional Facility. Elmira Correctional Facility, also known as The Hills, is a maximum security state prison in New York. This is another facility blurred on Google Earth. Why? Well, a number of reasons. 1, they have fears of an aerial attack. Number 2, they have fears that someone will use this information to plan an escape. And number 3, the prison is highly secure. Why would they want images of the building online for everyone to see? But it turns out that this location got blurred after a number of riots and mass escapes. Moving on at number 3, we have North Korea. Okay, is it even shocking that North Korea has sections of its country blurred? I mean, they are so secretive, so this isn't a surprise at all. Now, the area that is blurred is along the country's western shore. So people have thought that they are hiding something there, maybe a secret military project. Who knows? I mean, hey, the country is hiding so many things. Like I said, this one doesn't really come as a surprise. In our second spot, we have Paseo de los Naranjos. Located in Spain, this place translates to orange tree yard, and it is completely censored on Google Maps. No matter how close you try to zoom in on the map or the area close by, you won't be able to see anything. Why? Well, there's a lot of government buildings located there, so it's blurred out for security and privacy reasons, which makes sense. Many government or military buildings are blurred out on Google Maps for similar reasons. And in our number 1 spot today, we have Jeannette Island. Located in Russia, this island is said to contain a secret Russian military base. If you type this island into Google, you'll find a whole lot of nothing. Legit, it just looks like a bunch of water. It's not even registered on Google Maps as an island. When you type in its coordinates, you will see a message that says this island is unavailable. Now, before it was removed from the maps altogether, it wasn't even blurred out. It was actually blacked out. Like there was a full-on black mass just covering it. But when you zoomed in, you could see this icy mass, and that's all. According to Reddit user Exoplanetary Science, he said, and I quote, "Google rarely blacks out without reason. A search through Google Earth shows that this has been permanently blurred out, even in images dating back to the 1980s. I'm going to guess there's a concealed Russian military base located there, and possibly quite a substantial one." So, there you have it, folks. Secret Russian military base. Starting off this countdown, we have the tomb of Jinshi Huang. In 1974 in China, a group of farmers came across something quite amazing. So they were digging a well when they dug out a life-size terracotta soldier. After that, archaeologists spent 4 decades excavating the site. They found an army of thousands of these terracotta soldiers. Experts say there's more than 8,000 of them. The soldiers are guarding the tomb of Jinshi Huang, which is off limits to everyone, including scientists. Why? Well, it's rumored that it's protected by deadly booby traps. Not only that, there's a high concentration of mercury in the tomb, which is very deadly for anyone if they entered without the proper equipment. So the tomb is off limits for any and everyone. Moving on at number 9, we have Prochisca Brana. And if you guys are liking this video so far, make sure to give it a big thumbs up because it really helps us out. Now, this is considered one of the most spectacular landmarks of the Czech Republic. In fact, it's the biggest sandstone arc in Europe. Basically, it's a narrow rock arc. The arc is 16 meters above the ground and 26 meters long. But in 1982, the government stopped allowing people to visit there. Because of erosion and the amount of visitors, this arc was becoming way too dangerous. In fact, they believe that anytime it can just collapse on its own, which is why no one can visit the ark anymore. It's definitely not safe. In our 8th spot, we have the Chapel of the Ark of the Covenant. Located in Ethiopia, this place is said to contain the 2 stone tablets that God gave Moses containing the 10 Commandments. It is also said to contain a pot of manna as well. Manna was given to people by God to sustain them while on their long travels throughout the desert. So yeah, if it's true and they do have those, then that's a pretty huge deal. But here's the one thing. Only one priest, and one priest only, is allowed to view the ark. It's said that if anyone else sees it, then they will implode. and I don't think anyone wants to implode, so I doubt anyone has even tried to take that risk. In our 7th spot, we have Mesgorier Russia. Believe it or not, but this is an entire town that's closed off to the public. The town was founded in 1979 and is a nuclear missile site. But that's unconfirmed. That's just what the rumors say. It's said that this place is home to automatic missiles that can be activated remotely. If you try to get into this town, well, good luck, because it's heavily guarded and top secret. The only information that we have on this place is from images from satellite imagery. Now, the Kremlin claims, and I quote, "The site is used for mining, an emergency bunker for Russian leaders, and a vault for the nation's treasures." We don't know if that's true or not, but hopefully we will never find out if it's really a nuclear site or whatnot. Moving on to number 6, we have Krakow, Italy. Krakow, Italy was once a beautiful city, home to a number of residents. Sadly, it was abandoned towards the end of the 20th century. This was due to a number of natural disasters that destroyed the town. The first natural disaster occurred in 1963 when a bunch of landslides affected the area. This is a result of the city being built on a cliff 1,300 feet off the ground, and also they had some sewer and water system issues. Then in 1972, a flood struck the area and made the situation so much more worse. Then in 1980, there was an earthquake, and that left the city completely abandoned. Now the area is surrounded by a locked gate. It's said to be a ticking time bomb. At any second, it could just completely crumble. But here's the thing, it's a very popular filming location. In fact, some scenes from the film The Quantum of Solace were filmed there. So although you're not allowed to go there, they make an exception for film crews. But obviously they have very strict rules that they need to follow. We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with Varosha Cyprus. In the early 70s, Varosha was one of the most popular tourist attractions in the world. That was until 1974 when Turkey invaded Cyprus. As a result, the residents there fled for their lives. They were forced out of their home and never allowed to return. They lost everything. Now, since 1974, Varosha has been abandoned and under control of the Turkish military. The whole area is now fenced off and under constant supervision. If you try to break in, well, the army patrols have orders to shoot on sight. So don't even try to visit the city. They are not afraid to take down trespassers. And there are some cases of this happening to innocent people. Coming in at number 4, we have the Island of Dolls. You all know this island by now. I have talked about it before because it's just so damn creepy. So this island is located in Mexico City, and just as its name suggests, it's filled with dolls. These dolls are hanging from trees and buildings, they're just everywhere. Also, since they've been hanging for quite some time, they are covered in dirt and bugs, making them even creepier. Now, you're probably wondering how this place came to be. So back in the 1950s, a man named Don Julian started to hang dolls from trees as a way to protect himself against evil spirits. Paranormal things kept happening to him there, so he would hang dolls everywhere with the idea that they would scare the souls of the deceased away. Another version of the story claims that a girl mysteriously drowned there, and now the dolls are possessed by her spirit. In fact, some people say that they have seen the dolls move their limbs and open and close their eyes. So this man spent more than 50 years hanging dolls. Now it's abandoned and looks something straight out of a horror movie. Of course, urban explorers have trespassed out of sheer curiosity. In our 3rd spot, we have the Proving Ground. Located in Utah, the Dugway Proving Ground is the main biological and chemical weapons testing site for the US Army. Apparently, this base also contains top secret US military research documents. As a result, it's a very top secret facility. In 1968, something controversial actually occurred at this base. I've talked about this before, but basically a high-speed jet sprayed 320 gallons of nerve gas VX around the air in a test. This is so deadly that 10 milligrams can kill people instantly. Anyways, it sprayed in an area near a farm, and the next day thousands of sheep were found dead. But the facility denied that it was their fault and said that they weren't testing chemicals that day. But they paid the rancher who lost his sheep over $300,000 and tried to keep the situation hush hush. But that didn't work and people are like, what is going on over there? Sadly, we'll never know what's actually going on. It's like Area 51. If you try to trespass, you can be shot down or arrested. In our second spot, we have Vault B. This vault is located in Padma Temple, a Hindu temple located in India. It was built in the 16th century as a holy shrine to Mahavishnu. Later on, the kings of Travancore renovated it. Now, this temple contains 6 vaults, 5 of which have already been opened, and it contained up to $1 trillion worth of treasures. Yeah, these treasures are from the 16th century and include gold and jewels, and you name it. But no one wants to open the last vault, referred to as Vault B. Why? Well, legend goes that it's cursed. Locals tell of a story of a man that tried to enter this vault, but failed after a cobra came out of nowhere and killed him. So they believe that this vault is protected by a fatal curse. Another legend says that the vault is connected to the Arabian Sea. If you open it, it will flood the entire state. Not only that, but a man named T.P. Sundarajan, an Indian lawyer, made a petition to get Vault B open. However, in 2011, he unexpectedly passed away. People think that he was a victim of the temple's curse. And in our number 1 spot, we have the Cecil Hotel. I'm sure you guys have all heard about the Cecil Hotel, aka Hotel Death. It's the infamous place where Canadian college student Elisa Lam died, and was later found in the hotel's water tank. Now, this hotel was founded in 1924 in downtown Los Angeles. In 1927, it opened up as a budget hotel. It had 19 floors and 700 rooms available. Originally, the hotel was meant for business travelers and tourists, but after the Great Depression, it became a budget hotel. Over the years, a number of deaths have occurred in the hotel. From murders to serial killers, the hotel is just plagued with darkness. Eventually, in 2017, the Cecil Hotel closed, and now it's off limits. But there are rumors that this place is haunted by Elisa or others that have lost their lives there. So, urban explorers are determined to explore the now abandoned hotel. Take YouTuber Jake Weber for example. He just recently posted several videos of him getting into the hotel and exploring it. He managed to bribe the security officer there, and they let him and his friends inside for a couple of hours to explore and film.
Guys, this is her room. This was her room.
Starting off this countdown, we have the Stairway to Heaven. The Stairway to Heaven, or the Haiku Stairs, is a very steep hiking trail that was closed in 1987. It was closed because of lack of maintenance of the trail, and it was deemed unsafe. It's considered one of Hawaii's most dangerous trails, but that didn't stop 18-year-old Dalen Pua from hiking out there. On February 27, 2015, Dalen went out for a hike. He had previously told his grandmother, who he was visiting, that he wanted to do so, but she warned him against it. Also, you can get charged if you do trespass. But that didn't deter Dalen. On that day, he told his grandma he was going out for a hike, but she didn't think he would dare to go there. She was wrong. The last time anyone saw him was around 11 a.m. when he sent a photo to his family of him at that location. He never returned home. Of course, there are a number of theories as to what happened to him. Maybe he fell while on the hike, since the area is dangerous. But then again, his body or bones were never found. Another theory is that he was kidnapped or killed by someone. In the photo he sent to his family, it said you can see a man lurking in the foliage. Was this his killer? Sadly, we might never solve this case. Moving on to number 9, we have Diego Garcia. Diego Garcia is an island in the central Indian Ocean, part of the British Indian Ocean Territory. In 1966, the people on the island were employees as contract farmers, working on coconut plantations. But in 1968 to 1973, the farm workers were kicked off the island by the UK government, so that the US/UK military could have a joint base on the island. Now, it is off limits to everyone except official personnel, and it's highly guarded and secretive. In fact, some believe it was used by the CIA to torture prisoners. But since it's so closed off to us, we will never know what truly went on over there. Moving on to number 8, we have North Brother Island. North Brother Island is a 20-acre island located in New York City's East River. The island was once home to Riverside Hospital, which was built to quarantine people with smallpox. Since the island was so isolated from others, they thought it was perfect to house the sick there. All those who died there were stored in the island's morgue. Then in 1943, they used the hospital to house people with tuberculosis. From 1951, it served as a rehabilitation center for drug addicts. But by the 60s, it was abandoned. Now that island stays that way and is off limits to the public. The island is very dangerous to visit because the buildings are rotted and deteriorating. Access is forbidden unless you have proper authorization. In our 7th spot, we have the sewer system. So in July of 2018, 2 boys in the Northamptons decided to explore their town, which is fine. But they decided to get into the town's sewer system and explore from down below. I don't know what drew them in, that must have been super stinky. Now, Northampton's sewer system is actually known to be quite complicated and referred to as caverns. So it's no shocker that they prohibit people from entering. And also not a shocker that this pair got lost down there. After being lost for several hours, they were rescued. Thankfully, the rescue team was able to locate their whereabouts and help them get out of the tunnels. Bad news is, they didn't smell the greatest after all this happened. Moving on, number 6, we have Edgewater Medical Center. This abandoned medical center in Chicago is a very popular spot to urban explorers. In fact, little fun fact, this is the place that both Hillary Clinton and serial killer John Wayne Gacy were born. Now, securing the building has always been a problem. No matter how many signs or barricades they put up, people will always find a way to get in. In fact, now they have security guards monitoring the area to prevent people from trespassing. But still, this doesn't ward off the curious-minded. One person that entered this banned location is urban explorer Mike Kinsk. He said he found blood samples, some labeled with serious infectious diseases. He also found several boxes of death records dating back to the 90s. There is apparently also personnel files, test results, x-rays, and more still inside the hospital. In fact, these files were said to be destroyed, but clearly they weren't. We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with Dulce Base. This one is the definition of creepy, just get ready for it. So the small town of Dulce in New Mexico is said to have a secret underground facility where they do a number of wacky experiments. The first claim of this base was back in the 1930s. From there, the rumors began to skyrocket. Now it's believed that there is a 7-story compound beneath the city, and that's where there are human-animal hybrids and human-alien hybrids. Yeah, it's crazy. This base has very tight security and is regarded as one of the top forbidden places in the world. In our 4th spot, we have Centralia. Ah, yes, this place is making its way back on another one of my lists. Centralia is an abandoned town located in Pennsylvania. It was once a populated town. However, a lot of residents were forced to leave due to unsafe living conditions. This all started after a coal fire ignited underground. This fire has been burning for almost 50 years, and it's predicted to continue for another 200 years. As a result of this fire, tons of sinkholes have formed, and hot smoke is released underground, and carbon monoxide has filled some of the residents' basements. In some parts of the town that are affected, it is said that the ground beneath them has reached up to 900 degrees Fahrenheit, 400 degrees Celsius. But even that won't deter some people. In fact, 7 residents still live there. They refuse to move out of their home. But the US government has done their job to try and erase this city. They took away any signs directing people to this town, removed the town's zip code, and forced most of the residents out. But people still go there to explore, which isn't the best idea. In our 3rd spot, we have Gilman, Colorado. Located in southeastern Eagle County, Gilman was a beautiful town located on the edge of a cliff. But that wasn't the reason why this town was considered dangerous. Around 1984, the Environmental Protection Agency discovered hazardous levels of arsenic, cadmium, copper, lead, and zinc in the soil, surface, and groundwater of this area. It was so toxic that they demanded a full evacuation of this town. Now if you visit the area, you will see tons of signs warning trespassers. The signs say things like hidden and visible dangers and risk of injury or death. So don't go there. In our second spot, we have the Doomsday Vault. I did not know this was a thing, but there is a Doomsday Vault located in Norway. This vault contains 309 samples of seeds from all over the world. So just in case of a huge disaster, people can get to this vault and still be able to rebuild society and, make food. These seeds are highly protected. Only a few people have access to this building. And they are only allowed to go inside on days when they are accepting new seeds. So don't mess around with this vault, okay? It's humanity's lifeline. And in our number one spot, we have Bengar Fort, India. This next place is said to be the most haunted place in India. Back in the 17th century, it was once a thriving town, home to 10,000 people. But rumor has it, all residents deserted their homes overnight. Why? Because it's haunted. Duh. So there are two legends surrounding this place. Number one, there was a man named Madho Singh, and he was given permission to build this fort by the king under one condition. The fort never cast a shadow over his house. He said if this happened, then the city will perish. So this guy obeyed his command and made sure the fort never did. But Singh's successor ignored this and built the walls up higher. This cast a shadow over his house. And that's when the king's curse started. The second legend surrounds a princess named Ratnavati. Now, a man named Tantrik Singha fell in love with her beauty, but she kept refusing his love and advances over and over again. What she didn't know was that he was a magician of the dark arts. So he used a love potion on her by putting it in her perfume. But the princess wasn't dumb. She figured this out and then poured the potion over a huge boulder. This made the dude furious and he placed a curse on the town, and now it's still believed to be cursed/haunted. In fact, entry is banned for all foreigners. You need a special permit to get entry into this fort. And in no means can you ever be there before sunrise and after sunset. According to locals, 3 men decided to stay there after sundown, and things went south. One of the 3 guys fell into a deep well. Thankfully, he was rescued, but on their way to the hospital, all 3 of them got crushed in a freaky road accident and they died. Could this be the fort's curse? Starting off this countdown, we have the Forest Lake, Russia. This one is very strange, okay? Located somewhere within a huge forest in Russia is this beautiful yet mysterious lake. Mysterious because the exact location remains unknown. Someone found it while doing aerial photography. They were up in the sky flying over this forest when they found this huge lake. Another reason why it's mysterious is because no one really knows how the lake was actually created. Like, it's smack in the middle of a dense forest. Over the years, a number of people have attempted to find this lake, but no one has successfully managed to. As a result, there's a number of websites out there dedicated to finding the lake. And a number of posts have been made from people asking if anyone knows anything about it. Will we ever find this mysterious lake? Who knows? Who knows? Moving on at number 9, we have Krakow, Italy. Krakow, Italy was founded in the 8th century. However, it now lays abandoned due to a series of destructive natural disasters. The first natural disaster occurred in 1963 when a bunch of landslides affected the area. This was a result of the city being built on a cliff 1,300 feet off of the ground, and they also had some sewer and water system issues. Then in 1972, a flood struck the area and made the whole situation worse. Then in 1980, there was an earthquake that left the city completely abandoned. Now, the only people you may catch there are film crews. It's a very popular filming location. Some scenes in the film Quantum of Solace were shot there. But the area itself is considered a ticking time bomb, and it's surrounded by a locked gate. Making our way down the list at number 8, we have the city underwater. You aren't going to be able to visit this next city unless you have access to to scuba diving gear, because this city is now completely submerged underwater. Built 1300 years ago, the city I'm referring to is Xichang, also referred to as Lion City, and it's located in eastern China. In 1959, the city was purposely flooded to build a hydroelectric power station. Now it's referred to as China's Atlantis. What's pretty fascinating is that although it lays about 40 meters underwater, the buildings are still in pretty good shape. The only change is instead of having human residents, it's home to tons of aquatic life. Moving on to number 7, we have Cahaba, Alabama. Cahaba in Alabama was abandoned after suffering from seasonal flooding. In 1865, Cahaba was destroyed by a flood and then abandoned. After the flood, living there became relatively impossible, so residents had no choice but to leave. But then in the 1920s, an archaeologist started to uncover and preserve some of the structures. Now it's said that the area is very haunted. In fact, it's known for a ghostly orb that can be seen floating around only to vanish into thin air. So the citizens may no longer live there, but ghosts certainly do. In our 6th spot, we have Varosha Cyprus. In the early 70s, Varosha was one of the most popular tourist attractions in the world. That was until 1974 when Turkey invaded Cyprus. As a result, the residents there fled for their lives. Some residents have told stories of pots being left on their stoves or things still left in their ovens. It's quite sad how they were forced out of their own home and not allowed to return. Since 1974, Varosha has been abandoned and under control of the Turkish military. The whole area is now fenced off and under constant supervision. If you try to break in, well, the army patrols have orders to shoot on sight. So don't even try to visit the city, it definitely will end badly. It's just such a shame because the area is beautiful. In fact, actress Elizabeth Taylor loved going there. We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with Plymouth Montserrat. Plymouth, once the capital of Montserrat in the Caribbean, is often referred to as Pompeii of the Caribbean. Why? Well, in 1996, a volcano erupted, causing a mass evacuation. A few months later, some residents returned, but were welcomed with another eruption. On June 25th, 1997, this eruption killed 19 residents and destroyed the island's airport, trapping many others from fleeing. Eventually, Plymouth was evacuated again, but this time, no one dared to return. Everything was destroyed. In fact, 80% of the town is currently covered in ash. Pictures show homes completely buried with only their roofs sticking out. It's quite sad and scary. Moving on to number 4, we have Centralia. Centralia is an abandoned town located in Pennsylvania. It was once a populated town, however, a lot of residents were forced to leave due to unsafe living conditions. This all started after a coal fire ignited underground. This fire has been burning for almost 50 years. And it's predicted to continue on for another 200 years. As a result of this fire, tons of sinkholes have formed, hot smoke is released underground, and carbon monoxide has filled some residents' basements. In some parts of the town, it's said that the ground beneath them have reached up to 900 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 400 degrees Celsius for us Canadians. Now, the US government is trying to erase any history of this city. They took away any signs directing people to this town, removed the town's zip code, and forced most of the residents out, except for 7 residents that are happy living in their deadly town and refuse to move out. In our 3rd spot, we have the Island of Dolls, aka the island I never want to visit. Located in Mexico City, the Island of Dolls is full of dolls hanging from trees and buildings. If that's not bad enough, these dolls have been there for so long that they are covered in dirt, cobwebs, and insects, making them look that much more terrifying. Now, you're probably wondering how this place came to be. Clearly, it's not Annabelle or Chucky's private island resort, though it could be. So back in the 1950s, a man named Don Julian started to hang dolls from trees as a way to protect himself against evil spirits. Paranormal things kept happening to him there, so he would hang dolls everywhere with the idea that they would scare the souls of the deceased. He spent more than 50 years hanging dolls. Some were found in the garbage, some were missing limbs. Did not matter. If it was a doll, it got hung up all around the island. Now it's abandoned and looks like something straight out of a horror movie. Coming in at number 2, we have Whitnam, Australia. Located north-northeast of Perth, Australia, Whitnam is considered one of Australia's deadliest towns. And you would think it would have to do with Australia's massive and deadly insects, but surprisingly not. In fact, it's because of its blue asbestos. In 1937, blue asbestos was discovered in the city's gorge. Years later, miners were unearthing tons of asbestos from the ground. It wasn't until 1978 that the government started pushing people out of their homes. They realized how deadly it was for them to be living there. It was increasing their risk for cancer. And in some cases, people were already developing lung cancer just from living there. It would cost the town about $2.43 million to rid the town of asbestos. So instead of doing that, they just shut the town down completely. In 2006, the government turned off the power to the town and had its name removed from maps and road signs. In fact, all roads that once led to the town are now closed off. If you do choose to enter the town, you will find tons of huge warning signs advising you to turn back. And in our number 1 spot, we have Pripyas, Ukraine. This is probably the most famous abandoned city on the list. So Pripyat was a city in Ukraine that had a population of 49,000 individuals. However, on April 27, 1986, all residents were forced to evacuate following the Chernobyl disaster. Pripyat was the most affected by the Chernobyl nuclear disaster since they were the closest to the power plant. They were the ones most exposed to the radioactive chemicals. A once beautiful city was left abandoned in just 3 hours. Due to the radiation, the city will be left untouched for thousands of more years until it's safe enough to return. Starting off this countdown, we have Umoja Village. Located in Kenya, this village was founded in 1990 by a woman named Rebecca Lolosoli. It was created as a safe haven for homeless women, women trying to escape forced marriages, or survivors of violence, etc. The idea came to her while she was in the hospital after being attacked by a group of men. This village is barred off by a fence of thorns to try and prevent men from entering. There are around 27 women and 200 children living at this village. The women that live there still work so they can afford clothes, food, and their shelter. On top of that, their village is open to female tourists with hope that they will come in and buy some of their jewelry. They also charge a fee for anyone that wants to come in.
Number 9. Bengar Fort. Back in the 16th century, King Madho built this massive Bengar Fort in India. The population of the small town was around 1,000 folks at the time. It was a beautiful fort. Many considered this a luxury. Rightfully so. I mean, it looks like a set piece from Game of Thrones. This is beautiful. The legend has it that Princess Ratnavati, who at the time was living in the luxurious fort, she was the talk of the town. Dudes were proposing left, right, and center. Princes of all over the world would come in and try and take her hand. But she was like, maybe, no, I don't know. And then one day when visiting town, a magician named Skindia saw the princess shopping for perfumes. So he asked her out, she said no, and he was like, okay, what's step 2 here? What's plan B? So he then used black magic of Vashikaran on the princess. Yeah, he mixed it with the perfume she was admiring, but it didn't work. Luckily, she caught on, she smashed the perfume, and as the bottle broke apart, the magician cursed the entire fort and those living inside of it. And then, only a few days later, an entire war erupted around the fort, and there were tons of casualties. Yeah, let's avoid this area forever, shall we? Cool, great, moving on. Number 8. Kaluapapa. Heading over to the beautiful Hawaii for this one. I always wanted to go. Thing is, islands in the middle of nowhere freak me out. And also, haunted villages, they freak me out as well, just a little bit, we don't like those. Once referred to as the most cursed place on Earth, the coast of Molokai sounds like a great time, and from Google Earth, it certainly looks like a fair weekend getaway. But for over 100 years, this was an isolation coast for patients with leprosy. Yeah, not an ideal paradise. Nothing like paradise there, not at all. Nothing like sandals. We're not gonna build the sandals on this one, I don't think. That of course had to change at some point, and the laws did in 1969. So as of right now, no more than 5 people are allowed to live on this island due to its cursed and horrible history. So you have to get on a waiting list for this one. Number 7, the Whaley House. Located in San Diego and built in 1857. The Whaley House is an example of why you don't build your house on cursed land. Yeah, here's why you don't do it, guys. The site that this family home was built on was also once the location of San Diego's first public gallows. Yeah, what a fun fact that is. Imagine selling a home and being like, oh, did you know, by the way? Yeah, no, I don't want to know. Thank you. And apparently right after building this home and then moving in, Thomas Whaley said he could hear the footsteps of Yankee Jim Robinson, who had previously lost his life in the same gallows only 4 years prior. After the family had settled, they had all began to experience a bunch of family tragedies, most of which happened inside this house. Hence the cursed land aspect. As of today, the Whaley house is now a museum, and apparently the family members continue to haunt the site. So sadly and thankfully, you can't live there anymore. They made a museum to make sure nobody ever stays the night. No guards either. They're like, nope, just everyone leave at night. That's good. These paranormal occurrences are often accompanied by the smells of cigar smoke and heavy perfumes. So that's a sign of demons. Either that, or it's the old couple behind you the entire tour that keeps talking. They're like, what did she say? Grandpa breath in the back of your neck. Get out of here. Number 6, the Forbidden City. Yeah, of course we have to mention this beauty. Forbidden City? Kind of hits the mark. Located in Beijing, China, the Forbidden City has quite the reputation. That of a pretty horrible one too. This building used to be the Imperial Palace, but now it's a museum, and of course, like other places on this list, it's littered with tourists whenever it can be. They're like, oh, we can't go here, it's haunted? No problem, let's just all gather at the same time. They can't stop us all. This building has quite the grim history, so the amount of reports that come in, sightings of demon, there was a handful online, honestly. The number of ghostly encounters shot up once the palace opened to the public in 1940s. And in many cases, visitors would report seeing a ghostly woman dressed in, you guessed it, all white. The classic all white ghost look. Like, can't they just wear jeans, like a turtleneck, you know, mix it up a bit? Don't you have a wardrobe up there? More often than not, you can find her ghost wandering the palace at night, weeping. Yeah, those who are brave enough to wander at night say they can hear a woman crying just from all around. I can't tell if I'm sad or more scared now at this point. Bit of both. Number 5, Hoiba Ki Forest. Heading over to Romania, some UFO action on this one, believe it or not. Yeah, back in 1968, an unidentified hovering craft was spotted over this forest. Many locals at the time looked at it as a getaway to another dimension, which is a pretty strange thing to say when seeing something in the sky. A lot of folks disappeared, like they just went into the forest, looked at it, and then they were gone. Locals referred to this legendary forest as the Bermuda Triangle of Transylvania. Again, not a bad nickname. Perhaps the scariest place I can think of. Yeah, a haunted forest in Transylvania that's kind of like the Bermuda Triangle with Sleepy Hollow trees. I'm all set. I'm good. You lost me at Transylvanian Forest, to be honest with you. Number 4, Anjikuni Village. Heading over to Canada for this one. Anjikuni Village is located in Nunavut. This curse began around in the 1930s. It was a cold winter's night, as most of them are in Canada. The moon was completely full, and Joe LaBelle, a fur trapper at the time, was traveling to the most northern region expecting to meet up with company. Only when he arrived to the village, he found it completely empty, despite every hut being filled with supplies, clothes, pots of food, etc. Just everything. Perhaps one of the most jarring details of this winter excursion was the graves of those who had passed before in the village. Those graves were opened up. All of them. Meaning whoever or whatever came by most likely set into motion a cursed village. Great, thanks. This sounds horrible. People do this in Egypt now. We're like, stop opening these tombs, please. There's pandemics, like clearly there's something afoot. I don't know who or what wanted to open those tombs, but you need to read a book, my friend. Or a map, clearly. Number 3, the Devil Sinkhole. A sinkhole. Cursed. Why, of course. What else is a sinkhole? Obviously it's cursed. This one's located in Rock Springs, Texas, and it's 50 feet wide and 400 feet deep. A lot of people claim this is the entrance to the underworld. And it certainly looks the part, doesn't it? The Devil's Sinkhole was first discovered way back in 1876, and it wasn't empty, which is pretty scary considering it's a brand new hole into the earth. Findings of arrowheads, bones, and burnt rocks suggest at one point in time this was probably an ancient burial ground, or an ancient palace of sacrifice. Either way, let's go home. Let's back it up. Oh, cool. Chris, if you found a bone in a hole in your backyard, would you just move? Yeah. Exhale, then yeah. Not even like a maybe. Confidently, yes. A place called the Devil's Sinkhole is of course now a tourist attraction. People just sneak in and try and see what's down there, but more so because of the amount of bats inside that will just flock out. Locals will often gather some evenings to observe millions of bats pour out of the sinkhole to, hunt for food. So unless Bruce Wayne is down there, I'm betting on this being the Devil's Doorway. For sure cursed. Let's move on. Number 2, Houska Castle. According to folklore, the Houska Castle, which is located north of Prague in Czech Republic, is built over a bottomless hole that leads directly down to hell. The legend claims that the 13th century King Ottokar II offered a pardon to any prisoner who agreed to be lowered into this pit in order to see what was down there. Sure, I would do it. I'm not gonna lie, I'd probably do it.
Woo!
The first prisoner who was lowered into the pit, he only lasted 30 seconds before he started screaming. Legend has it, as soon as he was brought back up, his hair had turned white and he had aged 30 years. Yeah, some Avengers Endgame science right there. We need to go back to this pit and figure something out. He was also telling stories of these half-human creatures that flew around in the darkness with scaly wings. Sounds like somebody we know, I think, on this list. I don't know. The castle was built over the hole without things like water sources or any kitchens or anything like that because apparently it wasn't meant to be used by humans, but rather as a place to capture the demons should they rise from this mysterious devil hole. Nice. I'm glad we got some real estate on standby for these guys. Can't leave the demons out of the real estate market. We're good. We're inclusive. Just a bunch of demons. They're like, oh, it's good spacing. How many bathrooms? Just floating around. 3 bathrooms, I think that's good. That's good for a family. That's good. It's good for 4. And finally, number 1, Rainham Hall. Norfolk, England. I've been to England a couple times now, and I gotta say, one of the most beautiful places that I've ever been to. I would love to live there if I could. Just, not here specifically. Just not around Rainham Hall. We don't like cursed halls. The Lady of Rainham Hall became a popular tale back in 1936 after this photo was published in the papers. Legend has it, it's the ghost of one Dorothy Townshend. She was the sister of Robert Walpole, who was the first prime minister back in 1676. Some history for you. Some reports say the image is a result of a long exposure gone wrong, but it's so long ago, this is the most compelling thing we have really to the paranormal. More than likely, it's long exposure gone wrong, but either way, I wanted to finish off on a cursed place with an actual photo. I like to include real photos for you guys. This is one of, if not the most debated photo of a spirit of all time. The first sighting was Christmas Day, 1835, so make sure you're not on the naughty list if you live around here. He's checking twice, apparently, that big old guy.
Let's get right into this list. Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have Mount Athos. This mountain and peninsula isn't only off limits to human females, but just every kind of female animal out there. This rule has been in place for more than 1,000 years, so I don't really see this one changing at any time soon. This mountain is home to a monastery which houses about 2,000 monks, which is where this female band comes from. There have been women in the past who have snuck into the area in order to protest, but it has always been met with an outcry from the monks who say that the presence of the females not only alter the social dynamics, but slow their path to spiritual enlightenment. I'm not exactly sure how to feel about this one, as I can definitely respect people's religious practices and wouldn't want anyone coming into my path of enlightenment, but this ban, of course, also includes me.
In our 9th spot today, we have Disneyland. Now, you might be like, huh? Lindsay, Disney is not a prohibited location to visit. Well, yes, you're allowed to go there during the day when it's open, but it's illegal to try to enter the park and trespass when it's closed during the night. That's what teen Thomas Guy Cleveland tried to do in 1956. Now, the park wasn't completely closed. It was hosting their annual grad night. Thomas thought it would be a good idea to try to sneak into the park, so he climbed over the park's 16-foot-high fence. Then he climbed onto the monorail track. His plan was to then run along the monorail track until he was inside the park and then jump or climb down. However, this didn't go according to plan. While trying to sneak into the park, the monorail came along the track and struck him. It ended up dragging his body 30 to 40 feet down the track. He sadly lost his life. In our 8th spot today, we have SeaWorld. What's with people trying to sneak into amusement parks at night? This is another example of it gone terribly, terribly wrong. On July 6th of 1999, a man named Daniel Dukes snuck into SeaWorld. It said that Daniel was kind of a hippie and he loved animals. All he wanted to do was to be able to swim with the whales. So he stayed into the park until it closed and then managed to elude security in order to make his way to Tilikum's tank. That's where he hopped in naked and swam around. Sadly, Tilikum attacked and killed him. He was found the next day dead, floating on the back of Tilikum. His body was so badly disfigured from the whale that they had to do a closed casket funeral. In fact, chunks of his skin and body were found floating around the tank. In our 7th spot today, we have the Hawaii Blowhole. The Halong Blowhole in Hawaii is quite an amazing sight to see, but it is very, very dangerous. Hence why it's fenced off and surrounded by signs saying no trespassing. Well, in June of 2002, Daniel Dick and his family went on vacation in Hawaii. Where they were staying was connected to a beach, and the beach was right by this blowhole. One morning, Daniel went out to the beach alone and started chatting up some girls. From there, he convinced them to come with him to this blowhole. While there, Daniel hopped over the fence and went directly to it. He hovered over the blowhole until it shot up water. Daniel ended up shooting up into the sky, and then on his way down, he fell into the blowhole. He was then trapped in there, and it was high tide, so it was impossible to swim out or to climb out of it the way that he came in. He was stuck in there for nearly 20 hours before it was safe to save him, but by that time, he had already died. In our sixth spot today, we have the Stairway to Heaven. Located in Hawaii, the Stairway to Heaven is considered one of Hawaii's most dangerous trails. It's very steep, and a number of people have died or have gotten badly injured from climbing it. As a result, it was closed in 1987. But that didn't stop Dalen Pua. On February 27th of 2015, Dalen trespassed into the area and decided to climb this path. He had done so without telling his family where he was going. He knew that they would stop him because his grandmother told him just how dangerous it was. Sadly, he never returned home. His body was never found. The last time Dalen's family ever heard from him was around 11 a.m. that day when he texted his family a photo of him at the trail. Theory goes that he ended up falling to his death. We're now at our fifth and halfway mark with Pelican Valley. In July of 1984, a woman named Birgitta Friedenhagen and her 3 pals were exploring this area. Birgitta had plans to stay the night in Pelican Valley, which is near Yellowstone National Park. It is very dangerous though. In fact, park rangers say you should only go there if you're in a group of 4 to 7 during the day, and you have to stick to the path. Birgitta, however, decided to go alone and camp the night. That night, she was attacked and killed by a bear. It dragged her out of her tent by her skull and sadly ate her. The park rangers literally warned her about staying there alone, but she assured them that she was an experienced camper and that she could handle it. Sadly, the park rangers were right. In our fourth spot, we have Snake Island. Now, I didn't mention Snake Island in my last video, and I got so many comments being like, what about Snake Island? But then when I do mention Snake Island, you guys are like, ugh, not Snake Island again, so I can't win. But I will say it does deserve a spot on today's list, so I'm putting it there. So as most of you know, Snake Island is a very dangerous island located in Brazil. And that's because this island is home to around 4,000 snakes. Most of them being golden lancehead vipers, aka one of the deadliest serpents in the world. It's said that this type of viper can grow up to 18 inches long, and it's so poisonous that one bite can kill you within an hour. A number of people who have gone to this island have wound up dead. First off, we have the family that was actually running a lighthouse on the island from 1909 to the 1920s. That was until the entire family was found dead in the lighthouse from snake attacks. Another time, a fisherman came to the island searching for bananas, and he never made it home. He was found days later in his boat in a pool of his own blood. As a result, the Brazilian government has banned anyone from ever going there. And if you do, they say that you won't make it back alive and you'll die within an hour. In our third spot today, we have Yellowstone Hot Springs. Yellowstone has a number of natural springs that are absolutely beautiful. Some you're even allowed to swim in. Others will literally cook you alive. In fact, at least 22 people have died from hot spring related injuries. As a result, there are clear signs on areas you can and cannot visit. All visitors must remain on the boardwalk. Straying off this path can be deadly, and that's what happened to Colin Nathaniel Scott in June of 2016. He was with his sister out looking for a place to hot pot, aka to soak in some warm water, and while out looking for this place, he ended up slipping and falling into a boiling hot spring. Emergency services were unable to retrieve his body right away. By the time that they got to him, his body had dissolved from the boiling temperatures. All that was left of him was his wallet and melted flip-flops. In our second spot today, we have North Sentinel Island. Now, this is another island that we have talked about a lot on this channel. Again, it definitely deserves a spot on today's list. Now, the island is home to a tribe that is so isolated from the rest of the world, and they do not like outsiders, which makes sense, okay? They just want to protect themselves and their home. But a man named John Allen Cho thought that it was his job to help him, that this is what God wanted him to do, and if he taught them Christianity, then he could change their lives. So on November of 2018, he headed out to this island. Although a number of people refused to take him there and literally told him that it was a death wish. In the end, he made multiple attempts to befriend the Sentinelese. But they were not having it. They would fire arrows at him to try and get him to leave. But he was persistent. November 16th was the last time anyone would ever see Alan again. Alan was dropped off on the island, and when the boater went back to get him, he saw tribe members dragging his dead body by a rope. And in our number 1 spot today, we have the Nika Caves, Mexico. Now, this is a beautiful cave filled with giant crystals or gypsum pillars. The cave was discovered in 1910 when miners were drilling in the area, but soon the area was deemed unsafe, and that's because of the climate. The air temperature is around 113 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 47 degrees Celsius, and the humidity is killer, literally. The levels were close to 100%, meaning if anyone was in there for more than 10 minutes without special breathing apparatuses, then their lungs will fill with water and they will drown. So the caves were closed off. That was until 2 miners drilled into it while searching a separate area nearby. When they got inside, they saw all these giant crystals. They're like, you're coming home with me. Little did they know the hazard of being there. So one of the miners started sawing off one of the giant crystals. However, it ended up falling and pinning him under it. Now, this didn't actually kill him. What killed him was being in this hot environment for too long. It said that he either drowned to death or that he was cooked alive.
Coming in at number 10, we have Forest Park, Savannah, Georgia. We're kicking this list off with a big one because Forest Park isn't just an innocent looking location. It's also breathtaking. It's one of the most gorgeous places you can visit in Georgia, with massive winding trees that look like they were planted by elves, beautiful lush foliage that decorates the entire area with a beautiful green backdrop, and on top of all this, there's architecture in this place that will make you think it was built for the Queen. I mean, look at some of the fountains in this bad boy. But with all that being said, you might not be eager to check out everything this park has to offer when you realize that there's some ghostly presence that will follow you around as you try to enjoy the nature. Apparently the whole city of Savannah is riddled with tunnels. They run throughout the entire city and are under some of the most famous pieces of Forest Park. There are many rumors about the tunnels. Some say that gangsters would use them to transport goods and dead bodies. Some people think that swarms of underground tunnel dwellers lived and died down there while trying to escape the surface life. But the most legitimate claim is that the tunnels were used by doctors to perform autopsies and some strange experiments.
In our 9th spot, we have Discovery Island. Discovery Island is now an abandoned park by Disney that opened in 1970. It was located in the middle of Bay Lake by Disney World. In order to get to it, visitors would take a boat from Disney World. The park was known for having an incredible amount of exotic birds from all over the world. The attraction was basically like a miniature zoo. But in 1989, it was revealed that Disney wasn't taking proper care of the animals on the island, and the employees were caught doing some messed up things to the animals. In 1998, Animal Kingdom opened, and people just really didn't care about Discovery Island anymore. The island closed in 1999 for undisclosed reasons, and all of its animals got moved to Disney's Animal Kingdom. Now the island is just completely abandoned. Its structures are covered in nature, but it's illegal to go there. In fact, you're not allowed to get within 50 feet of its shoreline, and you'll be arrested if caught trespassing. There are a number of examples of people getting arrested for trying to get on this island. Just last year, some man was arrested after he was found camping out there. In April of 2020, Richard McGuire was arrested for visiting the island as well. Kind of makes you wonder why that area is so highly patrolled. Coming in at number 8, we have Lascaux Caves in France. The Lascaux Caves are a series of complex caves located in northwestern France. Back in the day, 4 teens were exploring the caves with their dog when they found a narrow entrance into a cavern. In the cavern, they discovered a plethora of prehistoric cave paintings. These paintings are anywhere from 15,000 to 17,000 years old. They mainly depict animals. In 1948, the caves were open to the public, but in 1963, they were closed. The artificial light was fading the vivid colors of these paintings. And then algae started growing all over them. So in order to preserve the history, they prevent anyone from going there. The only exception is a small number of scientists. They can go there only a few days a month in order to study the paintings. Other than that, no one else can go. Moving on, at number 7, we have Room 39 in North Korea. North Korea has its fair share of secrets. Kim Jong-un likes it that way. He doesn't want anyone knowing what he's up to. Now, Room 39 is a top secret, highly guarded location inside of the Workers' Party building in Pyongyang. Journalist Kelly Olsen said, and I quote, "Room 39 is one of the most secret organizations in arguably the world's most secretive state. Only a few select people have access to this room. It was created in the late 1970s, and no one really knows what goes on in there. But it's reported that it's very critical to the Kim family. And I'm sure you can imagine what the guards would do if you were caught trespassing or attempting to break into the room. It would not end pretty." Moving on to number 6, we have Bohemian Grove. Bohemian Club is this group of rich men who meet in the Bohemian Grove in California every July. Among the attendees are US presidents, government members, and business leaders. You get the picture. Some very wealthy men. Some say that this is like a cult. Everything that goes on there is top secret. Apparently, what happens at the Bohemian Grove stays at the Bohemian Grove. In 2000, filmmaker Alex Jones and his cameraman snuck into the camp and filmed a Bohemian Grove ceremony. It was called the Cremation of the Care. Sounds very creepy. Here's a section of what he captured.
Again, midsummer sets us free.
We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with Poveglia, Italy. This island has a very, very dark past. During the Middle Ages, when the plague took the lives of thousands, this island was used as a dumping ground for the bodies. According to some reports, 50% of the island's soil consists of human remains. Then in the 1920s, the island had a mental institution, but the hospital workers were corrupt and often conducted experiments on the patients. Then over the years, the island has been bought and sold 3 times. The first 2 owners sold the island after witnessing some paranormal activity. It's said that the souls of the deceased haunt the island. In fact, to this day, this island is known as one of the most haunted places on Earth. Now the island is just abandoned and no one is allowed to visit it. I mean, you can, but you have to fill out a bunch of paperwork. In the end, it's not really worth it. In our 4th spot, we have Pripyas, Ukraine. I mean, it's kind of obvious why this one's on the list. So Pripyat was a city in Ukraine that had a population of 49,000 people. However, on April 27, 1986, all residents were forced to evacuate following the Chernobyl disaster. Pripyat was the most affected by the Chernobyl nuclear disaster since they were the closest to the power plant. They were the ones most exposed to the radioactive chemicals. Due to the radiation, the city will be left untouched for thousands of more years until it's safe enough to return. But of course, there have been a number of explorers that have gone there to check out the city's ruins. But like I said, because of the radiation levels, it's deemed too unsafe to go to, and people are warned not to. In our 3rd spot, we have the Paris Catacombs. The Paris Catacombs are a series of tunnels located under Paris, France. In the 18th century, the catacombs were created when the Paris cemeteries were full. They needed a place to bury the dead. As a result, they buried the dead underground in a series of tunnels. There's approximately 150 miles of tunnels in a maze-like fashion, making it extremely easy to get lost. Ever seen the movie As Above, So Below? Now, a portion of these tunnels are still accessible today and have attracted numerous explorers. But there's an area in the Paris catacombs that is completely blocked off from the public. It's because it's extremely easy for you to get lost with the number of pathways they have. Also, there's over 6 million people buried there, so maybe not go there. A couple of years ago, 2 young explorers went into the banned area and went missing for 3 full days. Finally, the authorities, along with their team of rescue dogs, found the boys in the tunnels. Thankfully, they both survived, only suffering from hypothermia. It could have ended much worse. In our 2nd spot, we have Pluto's Gate in Turkey. Back in the day, it was believed that anything that entered this area would be killed by the god Pluto himself. On a number of occasions, animals like bulls would be led into this cavern. They would never make it back out alive. As a result, people were terrified to go anywhere near there. But a couple of years ago, it was discovered what was actually causing this. Scientists noticed that at night, the CO2 concentration would become heavier in the air. CO2 is not normally toxic, but in high concentrations, it is, and will starve the body of oxygen. So yes, if you go there, the level of CO2 is so strong that you could die from asphyxiation. It's super dangerous, and as a result, people are banned from going there. And in our number 1 spot, we have Whitnam, Australia. Located northeast of Perth, Australia, Whitnam is considered one of Australia's deadliest towns. This is because of its blue asbestos problem. In 1937, blue asbestos was discovered in the city's gorge. Years later, miners were unearthing tons of asbestos from the ground. It wasn't until 1978 that the government started pushing people out of their homes. They realized how deadly it was for them to be living there. It was increasing their risk for cancer, and in some cases, people were already developing lung cancer just from living there. Now, it would cost the town about $2.43 million to get rid of this asbestos problem, so instead of doing that, they just shut down the town completely. In 2006, the government turned off power to the town and had its name removed from maps and road signs. In fact, all roads that once led to this town are now closed off. If you do choose to enter this town, you'll find tons of huge warning signs advising you to turn back.
The haunted crosswalk kicks things off in at number 10. Somewhere in South America on Google Maps, there is a crossroad, but there are some things you should know before you decide to cross the street at this busy intersection. Aside from looking both ways, before you cross, you might want to take extra precautions because you might stumble across a dark figure. According to the local legends, if you enter the middle, you will see everything go dark, and then you'll be met face to face with a shadowy figure known as the Crossroad Reaper. Well, here's a picture of the Reaper caught on Google Maps camera. Don't believe he's real? Well, why don't you try crossing the intersection yourself? And then you try to tell me you never saw him.
And at number 9, we have University Women's Club. This is a female-only club that was founded in 1888 London. It was a space for women to come to just relax and unwind, not having to worry about their household duties or whatever. It was also a professional space where business meetings would take place. This club also offered 22 bedrooms so that you could stay if need be, and 2 big event rooms should you ever need to rent them out for private parties or whatever. This place was open for all women of all ages, just no men. Moving on to number 8, we have the International Club of Paris. The Women's International Club of Paris, or Le WIC de Paris, was a club open to any and all women. Its goal is to get women of all different nationalities living in or around Paris to join this club and share their culture with others in the group. The group does things such as film screenings, book clubs, and would do activities like gymnastics and learn other languages. This club is pretty big. They have 252 members from 52 different countries. Again, there's no men allowed in this club. It's strictly women coming together to learn more about each other and form connections. They also say that the space is non-political and non-religious. They just want everyone to get together as one. Moving on to number 7, we have Noiva de Cordeiro. This is a remote Brazilian village that is home to 600 women. Now, this village is interesting for a number of reasons. Number 1, most of the women living there are 20 to 35 years old. Like, that's pretty young. On top of that, they are known to be all stunningly beautiful. Now, this village is a bit different than the other places on this list. Men are allowed to visit, but typically they don't live there. But the only time they can visit is on the weekends. They're forced to work away from home, and that's the only time that they have to visit. But most of the women that live there run the show. They work in the field and manage all the village's finances. They're like the bosses. Coming in at number 6, we have New Woman Space. Founded by Wong and Sandra Hong, New Woman Space, located in Brooklyn, is a place where women can come together as one. It's located in Williamsburg and is specifically for entrepreneurs or those looking to collaborate with other women. At this location, they have book club meetings and yoga classes. The founder Wong says, and I quote, "Our location means there is no shortage of women submitting new ideas for classes and workshops, who want to host events in every realm you can think of, and those who have found comfort and strength in knowing there is a community space for them." We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with the female-only parties. This next city, located in Colombia, is famous for having a men's curfew night. Basically, after a certain time at night, men are banned from leaving their homes. Literally, banned. Like, you could be fined for breaking this rule. Meanwhile, the women are free to roam the streets. On these nights, there are women-only concerts, film shows, and parties. Fire and police stations are taken over by female-only crews. It's a time for women to just, let loose and have fun. According to the mayor who created this idea, he said these female-only nights will reclaim public space for the women of Bogota and help men to get to know their homes. Moving on to number 4, we have the sorority. And no, I'm not talking about like a college or university sorority here. The sorority is a club only for women. It's described as an online network for professional women who want to collaborate and inspire others. Most of the meetings take place online. But if you live in London, some members meet regularly at different venues in London. Apparently, there are a couple members of royalty in this club. Now, if you are a female and this interests you and maybe you want to join the club, too bad, too sad. You can only get in by invitation only, so it's a pretty secretive club. On top of that, you have to fill out their pledge, which seems a little culty to me. But anyway, it seems like they want only the elite of the elite to be a part of this club. In our third spot, we have the secret society. Back in the 1840s, women were caught for having a number of different secret societies in New York. These societies were legit top secret. They didn't want men finding out about them at all. But this plan failed. In 1847, 4 of these secret societies were caught. Back then, it was a pretty big deal. Now, there's not much out there on these societies, like what went down, since it was so long ago. But apparently the government tried to break them up if they heard about them. When 4 clubs got exposed, they realized just how big they were. One society had 2,000 members. Like, that's insane. But yeah, with the amount of members, word was bound to get out sooner or later. In our second spot, we have Woman's Land. Now, this community spells its name Womans, as in W-O-M-Y-N-S, instead of M-A-N-S, because they literally want nothing to do with men. No man in the name, no man ever allowed in the community. Now, this community was fairly large. It started as a social movement in the 1970s in the US, Australia, New Zealand, and Western Europe. Basically, it was a group of women that wanted to escape the patriarchal society. So they decided to make their own community. Many of them still exist today. Back then, these women lived in the woods on private land. And honestly, a lot of people didn't know they existed. Some were meant specifically for women that identified as lesbian, others were for women traveling across countries alone and needed a safe place to stay. Nowadays, there are still a few of these communities left. These women live in small cabins or shacks. The only issue is that these women are getting older and need a new generation of younger women to come and keep these communities alive. But not a lot of younger women are interested in this. And in our number 1 spot, we have Surtsey Island. Located off the coast of the Baltic Sea, the Surtsey Island is a secret vacation destination for only women. It's owned by a woman named Christina Roth. She first discovered this island while on vacation in Finland. From there, she purchased it and spent months doing massive renovations. Now the island has 4 renovated cabins that can hold up to 10 women. The whole purpose of this island is to look after the wellness of the female mind, bodies, and souls. While on the island, you can partake in a number of activities including yoga, meditation, kayaking, and hiking. Now, don't be fooled. It's not like you can just book a trip there and you're all set. No, you actually need to fill out an application. On the form, you have to write to Christina why you want to go to the island. And she is specifically looking for people that aren't just writing BS, but like actually truly want to go to the island to better themselves.
Coming in number 10, we have the Kokoda Trail. There are tons of places around the world that draw in a ton of tourists, but when you do a little research on them, you will start to learn that they could be a little more dangerous than you think. Like, we all love a good hike, going for a long walk and testing your body against the elements. You get a solid workout in, you bring some snacks to munch down on while you're walking about, you get to see some wonderful nature, and if you're with the right kind of family, you probably get into 13 arguments along the way about nothing. The Kokoda Trail is one of the most popular tourist destinations in Papua New Guinea. People travel from all over the world to go on this fantastic hike and see some of the country's wilderness. Now, aside from the regular hazards you might run run into while you're hiking along this rocky trail, the Kokoda Trail is known for being packed with mosquitoes. While most of the time you shouldn't have to worry about these annoying bugs outside of the fact that they can be annoying and for some reason can't get a taste of your blood without being completely irritating, the mosquitoes there are packed with malaria. Yeah, you don't want to be catching that sickness while you're hiking around in the wilderness. It will quickly make you sick. On the bright side, you can take some malaria medication before you go over to the country to make sure that you won't catch this sickness. On the downside, malaria medication apparently gives you some wicked nightmares. So you won't get sick, but you might see a bog monster with a clown head and devil wings eat your whole family before it bursts into a million spiders while you're fast asleep.
At our number 9 spot today we have Haji Ali Dargah. This landmark is a mosque and dargah and was constructed in 1431. For a while there was a ban placed on women being there before an arrangement was made which allowed women into the landmark, but the inner sanctum sanctorium was still off limits, unless of course you're a man. This restriction was said to be due to Islam and the fact that it is considered a sin for a woman to be in close proximity of the grave of a Muslim saint. Or at least that's what the internet told me was the reason. This is another place that has seen many protests about the ban, and there have even been petitions circling to have the rule changed, but this is one of the times it actually worked. In 2016, the Supreme Court ruled that they would allow women the equal right to pray, and they began being allowed in all of the same areas, which of course was a huge win. In our number 8 spot today we have Mount Omine. This mountain is the home of the Yamabushi monks and is famous for its 3 tests of courage. The ban on women was placed in order to help remove thoughts of temptation from the monks as they practiced their strict lifestyle. This one is slightly different from some of the others on this list, however, as there have been many females who have still gone here with no trespassing charges ever placed or really much outcry at all. They refer to the ban as a more voluntary situation. Both the temple and the local community call it a request rather than a rule or a law, and the request is in order to respect their tradition as well as, of course, like I mentioned before, to help them. As much as I really don't like being banned from a place, I feel like this is a more reasonable way to do it if we have to, but maybe that's because I don't live in Japan where this rule directly affects me, so let me know in the comments down below what you think about these kinds of bans. In our number 7 spot today we have Okinoshima, this Japanese sacred island which is the home to the 17th century shrine of Okitsu. This island only has a population of 1, which is the single employee of the shrine. He is one of 24 priests who spend 10-day intervals on the island to pray and protect it from intruders. The rules state that only men can travel to and worship at the island's shrines. The men will strip naked and perform a cleansing ritual before they enter the island, and they honor the sailors who passed away in a naval battle near the island during the 1904-1905 Russo-Japanese War. It isn't exactly clear why women are banned from this island, but it has something to do with Shinto traditions. In our number 6 spot today we have the Galaxy Water Park. This water park located in Germany has a ban on women that I simply cannot wrap my head around. While women aren't banned from the water park entirely, they are banned from the park's highest speed water slide. This ban came after the owner of the park determined that the water slide was causing what is being called intimate injuries, and apparently this only happens to women. Apparently the slide can hit speeds up to 45 miles per hour, and apparently 6 women complained of suffering injuries. I really am not sure the details surrounding whatever is going on here, but to be fair, I'm not exactly sure if I would like to know either. But according to a gynecological association, other than pregnancy, there shouldn't be any sort of medical condition that would prevent a woman from going on a water slide. When I started making this list, this really wasn't the type of thing that I imagined including, because I never thought that this strange ban would even exist, but here we are. In our number 5 spot today we have Bohemian Grove. Bohemian Grove is a privately owned campsite in Monterey in California and is the home to the wealthy and exclusive Bohemian Club. It comes as no surprise that this club is only for men, despite the few dire attempts at including women. Every year there is a 2-week-long retreat that the club hosts on the private grounds, and while there have been 4 women who have been invited to the club as honorary members, the women are never invited to the Grove. Because of this weird ban and just the entire super strange nature of the whole ordeal, both the club and the Grove are part of many conspiracy theories. There has been no shortage of outsiders trying to sneak into the Grove to see what the heck is going on there and to get to the bottom of what this secretive club is really hiding. To be honest, there's definitely something sketchy going on with this whole thing because it really just does give off the weirdest vibes. In our number 4 spot today we have Lord Kartikeya Temple. This temple is located in India and was built in honor of course, Lord Kartikeya, who is the Hindu god of war. war. More specifically, the temple is paying homage to the celibate form of the Hindu deity. I guess with this knowledge, and also based on what video this is, you can guess what's going to come next. Women aren't allowed here. As this is a temple, it is of course for religious reasons, which are said to be why the rule came into place, but there's also a myth associated with this one. According to the myth, any woman who enters the temple will incur the deity's wrath and will be cursed. Considering the fact that he is the god of war, I feel like this might not be the one I want to risk. You know, just in case. I definitely am not trying to get cursed. In our number 3 spot today, we have Lord Ayyappa's temple. This is a temple that doesn't ban all women, but just those from 10 years old to 50 years old. This is another ban that has its roots in myths that surround the deity and the fact that he is celibate. Apparently, the deity thought of women as a distraction from the vow of celibacy, but despite this, this is one rule that might just be on its way out. Apparently, the government has recently become more vocal about favoring the decision to reverse this age restriction and instead allow women of all ages to enter the temple. The conversation has already reached the Supreme Court, which is huge. I totally understand that these decisions, especially these ones that have their roots in faith and religion, should not be taken lightly at all, and of course take time to discuss, but I think it can be appreciated that the conversation is happening at all. In our number 2 spot today, we have Saudi Arabia. Okay, so of course the whole country isn't just men, so you might be wondering why this is on the list, but that is to do with the rules around travel. As a solo woman traveler, it would be extremely difficult to gain entry into the country. Women can be given visas for travel, but all female visitors must be accompanied by a male guardian. I don't make the rules. That's just how it is. Once in the country, women also aren't permitted to drive, and if you're heading there to visit someone's grave, better luck somewhere else because women are also banned from Saudi Arabian cemeteries. So if you're planning a trip anytime soon, there's just a few things to consider beforehand and many more if you're female. In our number 1 spot today, we have the Jain Temple. To end off our list today, we have another temple that doesn't have an outright ban on women, but just a few rules that of course are directed to affect women. Firstly, there's a very strict dress code, which seems fine and well, especially for a religious place, reasonable. But then we get into the more surprising rule, and that is that women who are menstruating are banned from entering the premises. I have a lot of questions about why, although I know it is because that is something that is seen as unclean, which I will not comment on, but my main question is to how exactly that is an enforceable rule. Either way, it is the rule, and unfortunately, I don't make the rules. Despite this being one of the more seemingly absurd rules on this list, it is good to know in advance if you ever had a plan to visit the temple.
Starting off this countdown, we have the Violent Whirlpool. Located in Scotland, the Corrigium Maelstrom is a permanent, powerful vortex. In fact, this is said to be the 3rd strongest in the world, and depending on the weather conditions, this thing can get pretty deadly. In fact, there are countless tales of ships being sucked into the whirlpool's vortex. The lucky ones will just get spun out of control, but they'll survive. Not only that, but this whirlpool can produce standing waves as high as 15 feet high. So you don't want to be anywhere near it when that happens. In our 9th spot, we have Room 39. Room 39 is a top secret room located in North Korea. The whole location is heavily guarded. They don't want anyone getting into this room. In fact, it's said to be one of the most secret places in North Korea, a place that's already so secretive. It was created in the late 1970s. Room 39 is the meeting place for a top secret North Korean party organization. They apparently get up to a number of illegal activities in that room, like counterfeiting, selling and producing drugs, and selling weapons. Apparently, they bring in $500 million to $1 billion per year through these illegal activities. So yeah, no wonder they don't want outsiders inside of this room. Should anyone try to get in? Well, I'm sure you can imagine what would happen. In our 8th spot today, we have Vale do Javari. Located in Brazil in the Amazon, this area is one of the largest indigenous territories in the world. It's home to a number of indigenous tribes. There are said to be 2,000 individuals belonging to at least 14 tribes living there. In fact, they remained uncontacted with until several years ago. But the Brazilian government has banned anyone from going there. It's illegal if you do so. This is because they want to protect the people living there. Any contact with the outside world could be dangerous to these individuals. We could transmit diseases and wipe them out. So in an effort to protect the tribes, it's illegal to visit the area. In our 7th spot, we have the Korean Demilitarized Zone. This is the area that marks the separation between South and North Korea. The only people that reside there are high-ranking officials. It's illegal for anyone else to visit the site. In fact, it's one of the most militarized zones in the world, so why would anyone even want to go there? In fact, they have enough weapons to bombard Seoul with over 10,000 rounds every minute. Now, the North Korean side primarily serves to stop an invasion of North Korea from the south. Up until 1972, over 7,000 Korean soldiers infiltrated North Korea. More than half of them lost their lives. In our 6th spot today, we have Metro 2. Located in Moscow, Russia, there is a secret underground metro system operated by the Russian Ministry of Defense. It's said that this system connects the Moscow Kremlin with the Federal Security Service headquarters. The only problem is, no one knows where it is. That's how secret it is. People know it exists, but they haven't been able to find where it is or how to get in. Either way, you're banned from doing so anyways. We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with Varosha Cyprus. Once upon a time in the early 70s, Varosha was a popular tourist attraction. In fact, it was one of the most popular ones in the world. That was until 1974 when Turkey invaded. As a result, all the residents had to flee or else they were killed. They were forcibly removed from their homes and were never allowed to come back. The Turkish military then took control of the whole area, and no one is allowed to enter. In fact, the whole area is now fenced off and under constant supervision. Not only that, but the army patrols have orders to shoot on sight. So people don't even want to take a chance by going even remotely close to there. In our 4th spot, we have Pine Gap. Located deep in the Australian outback is Pine Gap, a top secret military base. In fact, this base has been named Australia's Area 51. That's how mysterious it is there. This base is operated by the Australian government and by the CIA and the NSA. In 2013, it was revealed that the NSA uses this facility to collect internet and telephone records, when originally it was said that this place was just a space research center. Clearly, that was just one big lie. So this place is just a big place for intelligence activities and military operations. What's scary is that it's rumored that this base is home to one of the most terrifying surveillance systems out there, the Echelon. This is the code name given to a very secretive and intense surveillance program. So yeah, anyone caught trespassing, you're in huge trouble. In our 3rd spot, we have Morgan Island. This is another island completely off limits, and that's because it's filled with monkeys. Now you might be thinking, oh, I love monkeys, they're so cute. No, okay? These monkeys are said to be infected by the herpes B virus, but it wasn't always like this. What happened was that the monkeys were originally from Puerto Rico, but then there was a viral outbreak among locals because the monkeys became overpopulated. So they tried to fix this problem by moving the monkeys to Morgan Island. In 1979, over 1,400 animals were relocated to Morgan Island. As a result, the island is off limits for your safety and the safety of the monkeys. Coming in at number 2, we have Mount Weather, aka one of America's best kept secrets. No, I didn't just make that up, that's actually what it's called. This is a secret facility located in Virginia. In fact, for years people were wondering if Mount Weather was actually real. It was just kind of rumored to be a thing. But alas, it is real. Mount Weather is an emergency operations center. They have an underground bunker there, so in case of emergency, they can keep all the government officials there in that bunker. They even have their own police department, fire department, and laws for this place. So we all know if there's an apocalypse, that's where the government will be hiding out. And of course, it's surrounded by armed guards, fences, and razor wires. And in our number 1 spot today, we have Russia's nuclear missile facility. In the Ural Mountains in Russia, there's a top secret town that no one is allowed to visit. This is because this is the place that Russia does their nuclear missile testing. As a result, no one is allowed to go in or even near the vicinity. Again, why would you even want to go anyways? That place is probably incredibly radioactive. It's also believed that around the area, the Russians have a secret bunker complex for the government and or the Russian armed forces.
Kicking off the list at number 10, WikiLeaks. Companies have to be somewhere, right? We're a film studio in Toronto. We go to work, we clock in, we clock out. This is a physical place that we go to. But where do places like WikiLeaks live? You know, where are all those odd safe houses, really? Well, apparently in Stockholm, buried around 100 feet below street level is an old nuclear bunker. Today, it's a facility owned by Swedish internet provider Bahnhof. This is where they keep servers for WikiLeaks, which is pretty hilarious. Julian Assange, frontrunner of this whole operation, his hard drive is in this bunker behind a 2-foot steel door accompanied by numerous backup generators. This guy will never get bored. If Netflix ever goes down, he's good. He's got like 2 weeks of movies.
In our ninth spot, we have Yucatan cenote. But before I go any further, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up button because it really helps us out. Located in southern Mexico, this place has tons of these natural pit type things called cenotes. Basically, it's a massive hole that forms after rocks underneath the ground break, and then it leaves a gap. This then exposes the groundwater that's underneath them. When the rock breaks down even more, water fills the hole, making it like a natural swimming pool. Now, they are quite beautiful, but they're also quite dangerous. Some of them you're allowed to swim in, but a bunch of them are off limits. Not only that, but some of them are hard to even get into, so people don't even bother. I mean, you'd have to be able to find a natural entrance, and then, like I said, it's still hard to enter. As a result, a number of these holes have never been touched, swam in, or explored. Coming in at number 8, we have Mesgorier, Pakistan. The Pakistan mountain Mesgorier is said to be the world's hardest alpine to climb. In fact, this mountain is said to be way harder to climb than Mount Everest. Now, there was a part that was climbed in 1960, but the north side of the mountain has not been successfully topped yet. This route is extremely dangerous and difficult. So over 75 years of attempts, only 15 people have successfully summited the mountain. Again, no one on the northeast face before. People have tried, but they don't get very far. Since no one has done it before, there's not a lot of info out there on the layout of it. And like I said before, it's very, very difficult to climb. In our 7th spot, we have Mount Sipil, Antarctica. Mount Sipil is a 10,203 foot tall, potentially active volcano located in the Antarctic. It was named after Paul A. Sipil, who was a navigator and the discoverer of this shield volcano. And it's never been climbed. As a result, it is the highest point on the Antarctic continent that has not been climbed. This is due to a number of reasons. 1, not a lot of people know about this volcano because it's in such a remote location, and 2, not much is known about the mountain. That's why I said potentially active volcano. I mean, people think it is an active volcano, but we still don't really know since people haven't really explored it. In our 6th spot, we have the Impossible Tepui. These gigantic towers of rock are often named the Impossible Tepui because they are incredibly difficult to climb. These are located all across Venezuela and are just super tall with sharp, jagged edges. Not only are most of them unexplored from the outside, but most of them are also unexplored from the inside as well. Hundreds of these rock towers are composed of caves and paths on the inside. According to scientists, only a fraction of those have been explored. The most we have done is flown drones over them to check them out from different angles, but physically no human has been to a majority of them. We are now at our 5th and halfway mark with the Twilight Zone reefs. Located in the Chagos Islands, these reefs are given their name due to the fact that they are part of the Twilight Zone in the ocean. But exploration of this area is limited because of how remote the islands are. On top of that, just recently they implemented a new rule where divers can only go down 25 meters. After that, it's restricted. So there's still so much to learn about this reef. And there's many more areas around there that haven't even been explored. In fact, in general, very few of the world's coral reefs have been studied deeper than 4 meters, so that's kind of interesting. Coming in at number 4, we have the deserts. Due to the extreme weather conditions, deserts are one of the world's least explored areas. I mean, it's really hard to survive out there for a long period of time. It's inhabitable. The days are extremely hot, nights extremely cold, and it gets very little rainfall. So it's hard to grow plants out there. So who really wants to be out there exploring? Anyways, we're going to talk about the Sahara Desert. The Sahara Desert covers over 200 million square miles. Humans clearly haven't covered every inch of it. There are entire regions that have yet to be explored. Coming in at number 3, we have the Amazon rainforest. The Amazon rainforest holds half of the total rainforest on Earth. It's pretty insane. This thing is massive. It covers a total area of 2.5 million square miles, and it's home to beautiful animals and wildlife. But have it being that it's so big, there's tons of areas in the Amazon where humans have never been to. Maybe these areas contain new insects and species that are just waiting to be discovered. We truly don't know. It would take us years to cover all the grounds there. In fact, it is considered one of the least explored places on Earth. Isn't that just fascinating? Well, I mean, I think it is. One of the reasons this is the case is because not only is the forest filled with deadly animals, like, jaguars and anacondas and Brazilian wandering spiders, but also explorers would have a tough time getting access to enough food and clean drinking water. And not only that, the Amazon gets rain all year round, which can cause heavy flooding, which then can cause the water levels to rise and flood, and it makes transportation through the area way too dangerous and challenging. In our second spot, we have Antarctica. Antarctica is considered the coldest place on Earth's surface. It's also the driest, coldest, and windiest continent on Earth. How fun. Its harsh climate alone makes it one of the least explored places on Earth. Not only that, but this place is massive. So no wonder humans haven't been able to get to every region there. In fact, Antarctica is considered one of the last unexplored places on Earth, and one of Earth's last frontiers. Let me explain why. There is a world of buried lakes and rivers under Antarctica. Scientists are desperate to explore it, but it's impossible to, just lift up the giant ice sheets and see what's up underneath there. So nobody really knows what it looks like under there, or even what things are living down there. This discovery is now considered among the most important geographical discoveries of the second half of the 20th century. And in our number 1 spot, we have the ocean. I mean, come on, this one is kind of obvious, but it's also very scary. It's said that 99% of the sea floor has yet to be discovered. Yeah, that means we have only explored 1%. Are you kidding me? Maybe that's where the aliens and mermaids are hiding, all the way down there. I mean, it took us a number of years before we could even reach the Challenger Deep, which is the deepest point in the ocean. It's gonna take us hundreds of more years before we can even explore half of the ocean. Now, this is due to a number of reasons. Number 1, light can't reach all the way down to the bottom of the ocean. After 200 meters, the light begins to decline, so it would be super hard to see. Not only that, but the deeper you go, the worse the conditions get. I mean, the pressure down there is way too much for the human body to handle. Also, the temperature drops significantly the deeper you go down. So yeah, it's not the best conditions for exploration. In fact, it's easier to send a person to space than it is to send them down to the bottom of the ocean. That's insane.
Number 10. Port Royal, Jamaica. Port Royal in Jamaica used to be the most banger place on Earth. It was once considered the world's best party town for pirates back in the 1600s. You know how much of a good time you have to be for pirates to collectively decide you're one of the best places to party? Pirates are maybe the best partiers of all time. However, God probably got all butthurt about this, because in June of 1692, a massive earthquake hit the area, followed by a huge tsunami which buried the whole city underwater. Around 3,000 people died, and the city has been left underwater to this day. This is definitely a huge bummer. It's considered an archaeological wonder, but I think we all need to pour one out for our fallen pirate brothers and sisters. We're just trying to have a colossal rager when the whole world came crashing down on them. I hope they're all up there in heaven getting tanked and rinsing puke out of those little funny mustaches.
Coming in at number 9, we have Snake Island. With a name like that, who would even want to visit it? And as you probably guessed, it is covered in snakes. This island is apparently home to around 4,000 snakes, most of them being golden lancehead vipers, aka one of the deadliest serpents in the world. It's said that this type of viper can grow up to 18 inches long, and it's so poisonous that one bite can kill you within an hour. As a result, the Brazilian government has banned anyone from ever going there. If you do, well, chances are you won't make it back alive. Legend goes that a fisherman arrived at the island in search of bananas, but was found days later in his boat. dead in a pool of his own blood. Then from 1909 to the 1920s, a family lived on the island to run the lighthouse. But according to another legend, the entire family was found dead after a group of snakes came into their home and attacked them. So like I said before, you don't ever want to go to this island. Moving on to number 8, we have Area 51. Of course this had to be on the list. Area 51 is a top secret government facility that is illegal for the public to visit. Anyone that does try to trespass can be charged, arrested, or even shot to death. This is what happened to a man in 2019. On January 28th, the man attempted to get into Area 51. He was then chased down by some cars for 8 miles. When he got out of his car, he was shot dead. Another case would be the 2 YouTubers that were arrested in September of 2019 after they tried to sneak into Area 51 and were caught recording the premise. I know we all want to know what really goes on in there, like if they got aliens or whatnot, but curiosity killed the cat. Just saying. In our 7th spot, we have the Devil's Hole. With a name like that, maybe it's best you don't visit it. So the Devil's Hole is located in a national wildlife refuge in Nevada. You can tour the area, but access to the Devil's Hole itself is off limits. They have a sign and a fence guarding the area, and the sign reads as so. Due to the scientific importance of this area and its fragile nature, unauthorized entry is prohibited. Yes, they want to protect the ecosystem, but also it is so dangerous to enter there. So Devil's Hole is like a little hole of water. When you dive in, it's filled with complex underwater caverns. Back in 1965, one night a group of 4 friends decided to hop the fence and explore the Devil's Hole. It was Paul, David, Bill, and Jack. Jack was on the lookout while the 3 dove in, but Paul never resurfaced. As a result, David and Bill both went back under to look for him, but then David never resurfaced. To this day, their bodies have never been found. Moving on to number 6, we have Bimney Island. Tourists are banned from ever visiting this island, because chances are your vacation will take a deadly turn if you decide to go there. This island is home to thousands of saltwater crocodiles, and they weigh around 2,000 pounds. Even the small ones pose a threat to humans. They have the capability of killing someone twice their size. On top of that, they are highly aggressive and will attack anyone that enters their habitat. In fact, the most number of fatalities in a crocodile attack took place at Bimney Island. In 1945, British soldiers drove the Japanese fighters off the main area of the island, forcing them to flee into the marshy area surrounding the island. One problem: those marshes were filled with hungry crocodiles. As a result, 500 soldiers were killed by these crocodiles. So yeah, maybe don't go to this island unless you want to be crocodile dinner. And of course, there's a number of stories of tourists going to this island and then being attacked and killed by these beasts. We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with Bouvet Island. Now here's the thing with Bouvet Island. You can visit it, but it would be a death wish if you did. Bouvet Island is extremely isolated and is almost completely covered by a glacier. Its nearest inhabited land is 1,600 miles away. One way to get there is by boat, but it would take very long and you would be facing extreme weather conditions while doing so. As a result, most expeditions are done by helicopter. Even then, if the weather suddenly changes, you're basically screwed because the island is so remote and far away from other pieces of land. But in 1964, a lifeboat was found abandoned at this island. How did it get there? How could this little boat survive crossing the Southern Ocean? It's a mystery that still baffles many. But also, where did the passengers of the boat go, if they had any? We got no clue, just a couple of theories. And at number 4, we have Vortex Spring. Vortex Spring is known for having pretty complex diving caves, but only those that have a diving certificate or are accompanied by an experienced diver can go there by themselves. In the 1980s, 13 people died in the vortex. There's one area in the underwater caves that are considered so deadly that it's blocked off, and people are prohibited from entering there. It's got this creepy warning sign with the Grim Reaper, and it's often locked with a gate. It's just far too easy for people to get lost and drown in there. But that didn't stop Ben McDaniel. On August 18th, 2010, Ben was seen entering the water near the caves and was never seen again. This case is quite strange, like there's a lot of pieces to it. Some say he faked his death because he owed the IRS a lot of money, and also he had a failed marriage, so maybe this was his way of starting over. Or Ben really did get lost in the caves and drowned, but his gear or body have never been found. In our third spot, we have the Bolton Strid. The Strid near Bolton Abbey is said to be the most dangerous stretch of water in the world. Just by looking at it, you wouldn't even think it's dangerous. I mean, the current isn't even that fast, but below the water surface are strong undercurrents that will toss you back and forth against the sharp, jagged rocks until you die. It's also fairly deep and it could just suck you down until you drown. In fact, it has a 100% fatality rate. Everyone that has gone or fallen in have never made it out alive. Their bodies also have never been found. There are a number of stories of people trying to leap across the river only to slip and fall in. In one case, there was a newlywed couple visiting the Strid. However, upon trying to cross the Strid, the bride fell in, and the groom fell in also trying to save her. As a result, there are a number of warning signs all around the area trying to warn people of the Strid's dangers. But of course, a lot of people ignore the signs since the Strid is so deceiving and looks pretty safe. In our second spot, we have North Sentinel Island. The reason why you can't visit this island is because it is home to a tribe that will kill anyone who dares to intrude on their land. They live their own life completely isolated from the rest of the world. In fact, they still live a hunter-gatherer lifestyle. But a man named John Allen believed that with the power of God, he would be able to convert them to Christianity and help them. He believed that this island was Satan's last stronghold on Earth. So in November of 2018, he headed out to the island. Now, the people that took him there knew of the dangers and really didn't want to, but he was so insistent that they finally gave in. In fact, they were later arrested for doing so. John's first attempt at making contact with them didn't go as planned. As soon as he stepped foot on the island, several men came charging at him, firing arrows. So he fled. But on November 16th, he tried again. He got a fisherman to drop him off alone, and that was the last time anyone had ever seen him. When people went back there for him, they saw the tribe members dragging his dead body with a rope. And in our number one spot, we have the Secret Cave. It was the evening of August 17th, 2005, and 5 friends were having dinner together. They were Scott McDonald, J. Blake Donner, Jennifer Lynn Galbraith, Ariel Singer, and Stephen Hunley. While eating, the group got to talking about this secret cave, which was a legend where they were from. It's all about this cool secret cave slash hangout spot. Rumor has it that's where human sacrifices were made, etc. But of course, no one thought it was a real cave. That's when Jennifer said that it was real and that she had been there before. The friends, not really believing her, asked her to bring them there. And so they did. So basically, up in the mountains by Brigham Young University, there was this small opening to a cave. The entrance was in the shape of a Y. But in order to get to the secret hangout spot, Jennifer told them they would have to dive down one area through this underwater tunnel to the other side, where there was an air pocket. The tunnel was 15 feet, and the gap they would have to swim through was 20 inches wide. So it was just enough for people to squeeze through. On top of that, someone had put a rope in the water so you could just pull yourself underwater with. So that's what the 4 of the friends did. Stephen Hunley decided to stay back. He waited for the group for about an hour, then he decided to call for help. And when police arrived, they were horrified at what they saw. So it seems like the group of friends successfully managed to get to the other side, but they couldn't make it back. The police ended up pumping out the water so that they could enter. And that's when they found all 4 of the friends' bodies stacked up against each other. It seems as if the person leading, who was Jennifer, got stuck on the way out and then she drowned. It would then be impossible to swim over her. So then the second person that went swimming was stopped at Jen's body, and they couldn't get back out because then the third person was coming in. So everyone was just blocked in this small tunnel. Slowly but surely, all of them drowned in this small dark cave. For safety reasons, this cave is no longer accessible. Woo!